Hello everyone, and welcome to the Ben 10 What Ifs. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Ben 10 found the boosted gear and became the Red Dragon. Emperor Ben 10 x Rias Gremory x Gwen Tennyson DXD. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Convergence of Worlds. The night sky fractured like broken glass above Bellwood. Ben Tennyson leapt between rooftops, his eyes locked on the prismatic tears in reality that pulsed with otherworldly energy. At 19, his movements carried the fluid confidence of someone who had spent years perfecting their craft. No wasted motion, no hesitation. "Gwen, are you seeing this?" Ben spoke into his plumber badge, voice steady despite the spectacle unfolding above. "The readings are off the charts." His cousin's voice crackled through the communicator. "Whatever it is, it's destabilizing rapidly. The energy signature doesn't match anything in the plumber database." A thunderous crack split the air as another fissure tore open the night. Through it, something massive began to emerge, a creature with obsidian scales and 6 limbs that moved with unsettling precision. Its elongated head swiveled, compound eyes gleaming with cold intelligence as they fixed on Ben. "I've got company," Ben muttered, sliding his sleeve back to reveal the Omnitrix. "And it doesn't look friendly." The device hummed beneath his fingertips, familiar and reassuring. 5 years of wielding it had taught Ben that heroism wasn't about having power, it was about how you used it. He cycled through his roster of aliens with practiced efficiency. "Going with Jetray. I need mobility to assess what we're dealing with." In a flash of emerald light, Ben's form shifted. Membrane wings extended from his transformed body as Jetray took to the air, neuroshock beams ready. The creature fully emerged now, its body seemingly phasing in and out of reality. It released a sound that vibrated at frequencies Ben felt in his bones rather than heard. The nearby windows of office buildings shattered inward, glass raining down on the empty streets below. "It's manipulating dimensional frequencies," Jetray observed, diving to avoid a tendril of energy that lashed out from the creature's torso. "Whatever this thing is, it's not just an alien, it's tearing holes between realities." Jetray circled higher, analyzing the situation. The creature's movements followed a pattern, reaching toward the tears in reality, pulling them wider. As if searching for something. Or someone. "Ben, I'm picking up temporal distortion," Gwen's voice came through, tension evident. "Kevin and I are 3 minutes out." "Might not have 3 minutes," Jetray replied, narrowly avoiding another energy tendril. He fired neuroshock beams at the creature, but they passed through as if striking smoke. Physical attacks aren't working. The creature's compound eyes tracked Jetray's movements with predatory focus. It released another bone-rattling frequency, this one different, a communication attempt. Jetray dove closer, risking proximity to better understand. "It's not attacking randomly, it's searching." The creature's 6 limbs began weaving complex patterns in the air, and the dimensional tiers expanded exponentially. The night sky above Bellwood was now more tear than reality, prismatic energies cascading down like aurora borealis. A decision crystallized in Ben's mind. He needed something that could interact with interdimensional energies. The Omnitrix flashed as he transformed again. "Clockwork," Ben announced, his metallic body gleaming under the fractured sky. Gears whirred inside his chest as he focused temporal energy through the key-like protrusion on his head. Green temporal waves pulsed outward, momentarily stabilizing the tears. The creature recoiled, its search pattern disrupted. That got its attention, Clockwork observed, his voice mechanical yet determined. "Whatever it's looking for, it doesn't want me interfering." All 6 of the creature's limbs suddenly oriented toward Clockwork, energy coalescing between them into a sphere of impossible darkness. When it launched, the attack wasn't directed at Ben, but at the street beneath him. Reality itself buckled where the sphere struck. Asphalt twisted into mathematical impossibilities, buildings warped like reflections in funhouse mirrors. Clockwork felt the ground beneath him cease to follow the laws of physics. "Ben." Gwen's voice came through distorted, stretched across octaves. "Something's happening to the static consumed the rest." Clockwork tried to counter with temporal energy, but the distortion spread faster than he could stabilize it. The creature above released what might have been a sound of triumph. "Need something with more raw power," Ben decided, slapping the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Atomics. The transformation never came. As emerald light engulfed him, a tear in reality opened directly beneath his feet. Ben felt himself pulled in multiple directions simultaneously, his consciousness stretched across possibilities. Then, darkness. When awareness returned, Ben found himself floating in a void unlike anything he'd encountered before. Not the emptiness of space, but a place between places. No up or down, no light yet not darkness. His body had reverted to human form, the Omnitrix pulsing erratically on his wrist. Hello. His voice didn't travel so much as exist everywhere at once. Anyone here? Interesting. The response wasn't spoken. It resonated through Ben's very being, ancient and powerful. You are not what I expected, bearer. Ben turned, or thought he did, in the directionless void. Who's there? Show yourself. I have been shown for millennia, yet few truly see. The void shifted, colors bleeding into existence. Crimson scales materialized around Ben, forming colossal coils that extended beyond perception. A dragon's head larger than a house came into focus, emerald eyes studying him with intelligence that predated human civilization. You're a dragon, Ben stated, maintaining his composure despite the extraordinary circumstances. Years of facing alien warlords had prepared him for strange encounters, if not quite this strange. I am Ddraig, the Red Dragon Emperor, the Welsh Dragon. Imprisoned, but not diminished. Ben assessed the situation with practiced calm. You're trapped here, in this pocket dimension. The massive dragon's laughter shook the non-existent ground. My prison is both simpler and more complex. I am sealed within the sacred gear you now hold. Sacred gear. Ben looked down, not a sigh. For the first time a crimson gauntlet had materialized on his left arm, opposite the Omnitrix. Scaled and dragon-like, it pulsed with power that somehow felt both foreign and familiar. What is this? How did it get on me? The boosted gear seeks worthy bearers. You were pulled across the dimensional barrier because it recognized something in you. Something unusual. Ddraig's massive head moved closer, studying the Omnitrix with ancient eyes. This device you wear, it contains multitudes. Life essence beyond counting. You transform, yet remain yourself. Fascinating. Ben flexed his fingers, feeling the boosted gear respond to his movements. Unlike the Omnitrix, which always felt like technology regardless of its alien origins, this gauntlet felt alive, an extension of something sentient. I need to get back, Ben said firmly. There's a creature attacking my world, tearing open reality. The dimensional shifter. It sensed the boosted gear seeking a new bearer and followed the energy trail. Such creatures feed on dimensional disturbances. Ben processed this information quickly. So it's not attacking my world, it was hunting for this. He raised the gauntlet, which means I've got to get back and stop it. Indeed. But first, you must accept me, bearer. The boosted gear responds to will and determination. I've got plenty of both, Ben replied, conviction in his voice. But I don't make deals without understanding the terms. What happens if I accept this power? The dragon's respect was palpable. Caution from one so young. Wise. The boosted gear doubles your power each time it activates. The cost is proportional strain on your body. The dragon's power flows through you, but your human form has limitations. Ben considered this, and with the Omnitrix, unknown. Such a combination has never existed. Your transformations may amplify the effect, or the energies may conflict. There is risk. Story of my life, Ben muttered. He straightened his shoulders. Decision made. I accept the responsibility. Now, how do we get back? The dragon's massive maw curved in what might have been a smile. Speak the words that resonate within you, bearer. Ben closed his eyes, feeling an unfamiliar energy stirring alongside the familiar presence of the Omnitrix. Words rose unbidden to his lips. Boosted gear. The crimson gauntlet flared with brilliant light. Reality cracked open once more, and Ben felt himself pulled back toward his world, but changed, carrying something ancient with him. The dimensional shifter creature hovered above downtown Bellwood, tendrils of energy lashing out at the approaching figures of Gwen and Kevin. Gwen's mana shields barely held against the reality-warping attacks, while Kevin, absorbed into steel. swung ineffectively at manifestations that weren't entirely present in their dimension. "Where's Ben?" Kevin shouted, frustration evident as another attack phased through his transformed fist. Gwen's eyes glowed with mana as she maintained multiple shields. Something pulled him through one of those tiers. "I can't sense him anywhere." A massive crack appeared in the air before them, not the prismatic tiers of before, but a clean slash of crimson energy. From within, a figure emerged, surrounded by an aura of power unlike anything they'd witnessed before. Ben Tennyson stood on the air itself, the Omnitrix on his right wrist pulsing in sync with a crimson dragon-scaled gauntlet on his left. "Ben." Gwen's voice contained equal parts relief and confusion. Ben assessed the situation instantly. The dimensional shifter had sensed his return and now oriented all its attention toward him, or rather, toward the boosted gear. Its compound eyes reflected hunger. "Gwen, Kevin, fall back," Ben commanded, his voice carrying unexpected authority. "This thing is after me specifically." "Not a chance," Kevin replied, leaping to a higher vantage point. "Whatever that thing is on your arm, it's putting out enough energy to power a small city." Ben raised the boosted gear, feeling Deedrake's presence guiding him. "Boost, boost," the gauntlet announced in Deedrake's voice. As emerald gems embedded in the scales illuminated, power surged through Ben's body, doubling his natural strength. It felt different from his transformations, not a replacement of his human form but an enhancement of it. "Let's see if this works," Ben muttered, activating the Omnitrix. Humungosaur. The transformation wave engulfed him, but instead of the familiar Vaxasaurian form, something unprecedented emerged. Humungosaur's massive frame appeared, but crimson scales interspersed with the tan hide. The boosted gear had expanded to accommodate the larger arm, and draconic energy crackled around the transformed alien. "What the?" Kevin started, eyes wide. "It's still me," Ben confirmed, his voice deeper through Humungosaur's vocal cords. "Just with some upgrades." The dimensional shifter recoiled, its search pattern disrupted by the unexpected power signature. It launched tendrils of distorted reality, but Ben, faster than Humungosaur had ever moved, sidestepped them with draconic grace. "Boost." The gauntlet announced again, the gems glowing brighter. Ben felt Humungosaur's already impressive strength multiply. He launched himself at the creature, no longer phasing through its semi-material form. His scaled fist connected solidly, sending the creature spiraling backward. "I can hit it now," Ben called to Gwen and Kevin. "The boosted gear lets me interact with its dimensional frequency." Gwen's analytical mind processed this instantly. "Then we need to close those tiers before more come through." The dimensional shifter recovered, compound eyes narrowing. It released another bone-vibrating frequency, but this time Ben recognized it for what it was: fear. The hunter had become the hunted. "Boost," Ben called out, activating the boosted gear's power once more. "Boost." 3 activations deep, the draconic energy began to strain even Humungosaur's enhanced physiology. Ben felt the peculiar sensation of 2 distinct power sources competing within him, the Omnitrix's transformative energy and Deedrake's multiplicative force. The creature lashed out desperately, opening more tiers in reality to escape. Ben leapt after it, catching one of its 6 limbs in his scaled grip. "Not so fast," he growled, pulling the creature back. "You came to my world. You deal with me." The dimensional shifter's compound eyes locked with Ben's, something like recognition passing between them. It wasn't merely a predator, it was intelligent, calculating. It ceased struggling, instead beginning to vibrate at a frequency that harmonized with the dimensional tiers. "It's trying to collapse the breaches," Gwen shouted, her magical senses perceiving what the others couldn't. "Ben, stop it." Ben understood instantly, the creature wasn't closing the tiers to help, but to create a massive implosion that would consume half the city. He needed to act fast, but with precision. "Need something with more finesse," Ben decided, slapping the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Feedback. The transformation wave engulfed him again, replacing Humungosaur with the conductoid form of feedback, but like before, altered with crimson scales and draconic features. The boosted gear remained, perfectly integrated with feedback's energy manipulating anatomy. "Perfect," Ben said, connecting feedback's antennae to the nearest dimensional tear. "Let's redirect that energy." Boost. With the boosted gear's 4th activation, Ben's energy absorption capabilities quadrupled. He began pulling in the dimensional energy from every tier, channeling it through his body. The strain was immense, like trying to contain a star within a glass bottle, but the combined powers held. The dimensional shifter released what could only be described as a scream, its planned implosion being thwarted. It launched itself at Ben, all 6 limbs extended to strike. Kevin intercepted, his metal form slamming into the creature's side. Not today, ugly. Gwen followed up, mana place. At forms materializing to give Kevin better positioning. Their years of teamwork showed in wordless coordination, each anticipating the other's movements. Ben continued absorbing the dimensional energy, his form glowing with power. Almost. Got it. With a final surge, he redirected the accumulated energy, not back at the tiers, but at the dimensional shifter itself. The creature was engulfed in its own reality warping field, its form compressing and expanding simultaneously. Gwen, containment spell. Ben called out. His cousin was already moving, ancient words flowing from her lips as she traced complex patterns in the air. A mana cage formed around the destabilizing creature, reinforced by the redirected dimensional energy. The dimensional shifter gave one final, defiant screech before imploding, not in a catastrophic blast, but in a controlled collapse that sealed the remaining tiers in reality. The night sky above Bellwood slowly returned to normal, stars replacing the prismatic fractures. Ben reverted to human form, dropping to one knee from exhaustion. The boosted gear remained on his left arm, its glow subsiding but its presence unchanged. Okay, Kevin said, approaching cautiously as his metal coating receded. Someone want to explain what just happened? And what's with the fancy new jewelry? Ben looked up at his friends, a weary smile crossing his face. Would you believe I met a dragon? 3 hours later, Ben sat in the back of Kevin's garage as Gwen conducted her 10th scan of the boosted gear. Her hands glowed with mana as she traced the contours of the gauntlet. Her brow furrowed in concentration. It's definitely not technology, she concluded, lowering her hands. It's more like a magical artifact, but alive somehow. The energy reminds me of my own mana, but older. Much older. Kevin leaned against his car, arms crossed. And you say there's a dragon living inside it? Like an actual fire-breathing dragon. Drake, Ben confirmed, flexing the gauntlet experimentally. The Red Dragon Emperor, he called himself. And yes, he's conscious in there, though he's been quiet since we got back. Probably because you nearly burned ourself out combining his power with the Omnitrix, Gwen said, concern evident in her voice. The energy readings I got when you were feedback were off the charts. That kind of power could tear you apart if you're not careful. Ben nodded, taking the warning seriously. Drake mentioned something similar. Said the boosted gear doubles my power each time it activates, but there's a physical limit to how much my body can handle. And when you transform? Kevin asked. Uncharted territory, Ben replied, looking at both artifacts on his arms. According to Drake, this combination has never existed before. Gwen pulled up her laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. I've been cross-referencing everything you told us with occult databases I have access to. There are references to Sakra. Gears throughout history, divine artifacts bestowed upon humans by the biblical god. Biblical god, Kevin repeated skeptically, as in, the god. Apparently, Gwen continued, the boosted gear is one of 13 Longinus, sacred gears with enough power to kill gods. Each contains a powerful being sealed within it, and they're passed to new bearers when the previous ones die. Ben absorbed this information, considering its implications. So somewhere out there, someone died, and this power chose me as its new wielder. A somber silence fell over the garage. Ben had faced death countless times as a hero. But being directly connected to someone else's passing felt different, heavier. The timing can't be a coincidence, Gwen eventually said, returning to her analysis. The dimensional shifter, the tiers in reality. You getting pulled into that pocket dimension. Something caused all this. Kevin pushed off from his car, moving to a workbench covered in alien tech. I've been tracking weird energy spikes for the past week. Thought it was just the usual Bellwood strangeness, but look at this. He activated a holographic display showing energy patterns across the city. These readings started exactly 7 days ago. Small at first, then growing until tonight's big show. But here's the weird part. They're not centered on Bellwood. The display zoomed out, revealing a global map with similar energy signatures in multiple locations. Whatever's happening, it's worldwide, Kevin concluded. Ben stood, a decision forming. Then we need to investigate. Starting with the nearest hotspot. Gwen zoomed in on the map. That would be Kuo Town. About 3 hours from here. Never heard of it, Ben remarked. Small place, Kevin replied. But according to these readings, it's putting out almost as much energy as Bellwood during a full-scale alien invasion. Ben's hand unconsciously moved to the boosted gear. Diedrag mentioned other sacred gears. Maybe there are others like this out there. And they're all activating for some reason. Only one way to find out, Gwen said, closing her laptop. Road trip, Kevin grinned, twirling his car keys. I'll drive. As they prepared to leave, Ben felt the boosted gear warm slightly against his skin. The dragon within remained silent, but Ben sensed anticipation, as if Diedrag knew they were heading towards something significant. The pre-dawn light cast long shadows as Kevin's car rolled into Kuo Town. The small city appeared peaceful, traditional Japanese architecture blending with modern buildings, cherry trees lining quiet streets. Nothing on the surface suggested supernatural activity. Energy readings are strongest near that academy, Gwen said, pointing toward an elegant campus visible on a hill overlooking the town. Kevin parked a block away, keeping the car inconspicuous. Fancy school for a small town. Kuo Academy, Gwen read from her phone. Recently went co-ed after being an all-girls school for generations. Known for its academic excellence and unusually beautiful student body. She raised an eyebrow at the last detail. Ben was only half listening, his attention drawn to the boosted gear. The gauntlet had materialized without his conscious command, pulsing with subtle energy. Someone's coming, he warned quietly. A figure appeared at the corner, moving with inhuman grace. Despite appearing as an ordinary high school student, dark hair framed a beautiful face with violet eyes that widened fractionally upon seeing them, or more specifically, upon seeing the boosted gear on Ben's arm. She recovered quickly, approaching with measured steps. The Red Dragon Emperor, I presume. You're not who we expected. Ben stood his ground, neither hostile nor entirely trusting. And you are, Akano Himahima, she replied with a slight bow, her polite demeanor at odds with the calculating assessment in her eyes. My master would like to speak with you regarding your recent acquisition. Your master? Kevin questioned, tension evident in his stance. Akano smiled, the expression not quite reaching her eyes. Rias Gremory, heiress of the House of Gremory. She felt the boosted gear activate last night and has been waiting for its bearer to appear. Ben exchanged glances with Gwen and Kevin. They'd faced enough situations to communicate volumes without words. Lead the way, Ben finally said. But my friends come too. Of course, Akano replied, her smile warming slightly. We wouldn't dream of separating the wielder of the Omnitrix from his team. The three visitors froze. You know about the Omnitrix? Gwen asked sharply. Akano's expression revealed genuine amusement now. We make it our business to know about extraordinary powers in our territory. Alien technology, magic, sacred gears, all fall under our purview. Your territory, Ben repeated, understanding dawning. You're not human. Not entirely, Akano confirmed, turning to lead them toward the academy. But then, transformation is something you understand better than most, isn't it, Ben Tennyson? As they followed, Ben felt the boosted gear pulse once more, recognition, perhaps, or warning. The gauntlet knew this place, or at least recognized the energies present here. Beside him, Gwen's hands glowed subtly with mana, ready for trouble, while Kevin casually touched a metal railing. Absorbing its properties beneath his clothing, preparation without provocation. The academy grounds were empty this early, their footsteps echoing on immaculate pathways. Akano led them to the old school building, its Victorian architecture standing apart from the rest of the campus. Inside, the hallways were shadowed and quiet, rich with the scent of old wood and something else, a subtle fragor. Ants Ben couldn't identify, but that triggered the boosted gear to warm against his skin. They stopped before ornate double doors. Akano knocked once before opening them, revealing a room that seemed transported from European aristocracy. Elegant furniture, rich carpets, and tall windows letting in the morning light. In the center of it all stood a young woman whose presence commanded the room effortlessly. Crimson hair cascaded down her back, framing features that combined Japanese refinement with something distinctly other. Her eyes, the same unusual blue-green as her companions, were violet, fixed on Ben with immediate interest. "Ben Tennyson," she greeted, voice melodious yet authoritative. "The hero of Earth becomes the Red Dragon Emperor. Fate has a peculiar sense of humor." Ben stepped forward, matching her confidence with his own. "Rias Gremory, I presume. You seem to know a lot about me. Your reputation precedes you," Rias replied, gesturing toward comfortable seating. "Though I admit, the boosted gear's appearance on your arm was unexpected. Sacred gears typically choose ordinary humans with exceptional potential, not those already wielding significant power." As they sat, Ben noticed others in the room. A petite white-haired girl watching with seemingly disinterested eyes that missed nothing, a blond boy whose handsome features contrasted with the wariness in his posture, and a shy-looking girl with long blonde hair who offered a tentative smile. "This is my peerage," Rias explained, noting Ben's observations. "Akino you've met. This is Kaneko, Hiba, and Asia." "Peerage?" Gwen questioned, her scholarly curiosity evident. Rias smiled, something ancient behind her youthful appearance. "Perhaps introductions are in order. I am Rias Gremory, next head of the House of Gremory, and a devil." Kevin tensed visibly. "As in, not quite as your mythology portrays us," Rias clarified. "But yes, we are the devils of legend, though we've evolved beyond the simplistic depictions in human religion." Quote. Ben absorbed this calmly. After years of encountering aliens with godlike powers, the revelation that devils existed seemed almost expected. "And you control this territory?" "The Gremory clan oversees Kuo town." "Yes," Rias confirmed. "We maintain balance between supernatural factions and protect humans from rogue elements." "Like fallen angels?" Ben asked, remembering Diedrag's brief explanations. Rias's eyes sharpened with interest. "You're already familiar with our world." "Impressive. I had a crash course," Ben replied, raising the boosted gear slightly. "Diedrag explained some basics while we were acquainting ourselves. The Welsh dragon speaks to you already." Rias leaned forward, genuine surprise in her expression. "Most bearers take months to establish communication. This one is different." The deep voice emanated from the boosted gear, startling everyone except Ben. The gauntlet glowed as Diedrag addressed the room. "He carries multiple lives within him already. His soul is accustomed to sharing its vessel." Rias recovered quickly, fascination replacing surprise. "The Omnitrix. Of course. Your transformations Saint have prepared your spirit for coexistence with another consciousness." "That's one theory," Ben agreed. "But you still haven't explained why you wanted to meet me." The devil's expression grew serious. "Because the emergence of a new Red Dragon Emperor is significant in itself, but combined with the recent dimensional disturbances and your unique status." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "It suggests larger forces at work." "What kind of forces?" Kevin asked bluntly. "That remains unclear," Rias admitted. "But various factions will take notice. The boosted gear is one of the most powerful sacred gears in existence. Coveted by many, some will seek to recruit you, others to eliminate you as a threat." "Story of my life," Ben muttered for the second time that day. Akino stepped forward, pouring tea that none of them had noticed being prepared. "What our president means is that you've entered a complex supernatural world with established hierarchies and ancient conflicts. Your alien heroics, while impressive, followed different rules." Ben accepted the tea with a nod of thanks. "I'm good at adapting." "So we've heard," Rias replied. "But there's something else you should know. The dimensional disruptions you experienced in Bellwood aren't isolated incidents. Similar phenomena have been reported worldwide, all centered around locations with significant supernatural activity." Gwen produced her laptop, opening it to display Kevin's energy readings. "We tracked similar patterns here. That's why we came." Rias examined the data with evident surprise. "You've been more thorough than I anticipated." "Yes, these match our observations. The barrier between dimensions is weakening, allowing increased interaction between realms that normally remain separate." Quote. "Like the pocket dimension where I met Diedrag," Ben suggested. Precisely, Rias confirmed, though that particular intersection was likely facilitated by the boosted gear seeking you specifically. A thought occurred to Ben. The dimensional shifter that attacked Bellwood, it was hunting the boosted gear's energy signature. Are there more of them? Rias exchanged glances with her peerage before answering. We believe so. 3 similar entities have been sighted near dimensional weak points globally. One was destroyed by the Norse faction in Europe, another repelled by Yukai in Kyoto. And the third, Gwen prompted, unaccounted for. Kiba spoke for the first time, his voice pleasant but serious. Last tracked heading toward this region. Ben processed this information, mentally kata. Logging potential alien forms best suited for interdimensional combat. The boosted gear added an unpredictable element, but also new possibilities. So we have dimensional tiers, creatures exploiting them. And a gauntlet housing an ancient dragon that's apparently a big deal in your world, Ben summarized. Anything else I should know? Rias studied him with those unnaturally bright eyes. Just one thing. The previous Red Dragon Emperor died 3 days ago, killed by a fallen angel faction led by Kokobile, a warmonger seeking to restart the great war between devils, angels, and fallen angels. And now they'll be looking for me. Ben concluded, understanding the implications immediately. Yes, Rias confirmed. Kokobile believes possessing the boosted gear will give him the power to chow Lenje even the leaders of the 3 factions. The room fell silent as this information settled. Ben felt the weight of it. Not just the danger to himself, which was nothing new, but the broader impli. Cations for a supernatural world he'd only just discovered existed alongside his own. Before anyone could speak further, a magical circle appeared on the floor, glowing with crimson light. From it emerged a silver-haired woman in a maid uniform whose presence caused even Rias to straighten respectfully. Graphia, Rias acknowledged. What brings you here? The newcomer bowed slightly. Lady Rias, I apologize for the interruption. But we've detected a fallen angel incursion at the city limits. Their energy signature matches Kokobile's lieutenants. Ben stood immediately. They're here for me. Most likely, Graphia confirmed, assessing Ben with eyes that held centuries of experience. They would have sensed the boosted gear's activation. Kevin and Gwen moved to flank Ben, their post. Yours making it clear they stood with him. Rias and her peerage likewise rose, a united front forming without discussion. Well, Ben said, a determined smile crossing his face as he activated the Omnitrix. Let's give them a proper welcome. Twilight painted Kuo town in shades of amber and shadow as Ben crouched on a rooftop overlooking the park where Rias had detected the fallen angel presence. Beside him, Kevin had absorbed the properties of a reinforced steel beam, his transformed body blending with the gathering darkness. On the opposite side of the park, Gwen waited with Asia, who say healing abilities might prove necessary before the night ended. 6 of them, Ben observed, counting the black-winged figures circling above the tree line. Just like Rias predicted. Any sign of their boss? Kevin asked quietly. No Kokobile yet, Ben replied. These are scouts, testing our defenses. The boosted gear materialized on Ben's arm, its crimson scales catching the fading light. Dedrag's presence brushed against his consciousness. They sense me. Their kind has hunted my bearers for millennia. Well, they picked the wrong bearer this time, Ben muttered, cycling through the Omnitrix. Below, Rias and Akino stepped into the clearing, presenting themselves openly. The strategy was straightforward. Appear vulnerable to draw out the fallen angels, then spring the trap once their intentions were confirmed. Kiba and Kaneko remained hidden in the tree line, ready to cut off escape routes. The largest of the fallen angels descended, black wings spanning 15 feet as he touched down before Rias. Even from a distance, his arrogance was palpable in the casual way he flared his wings and the dismissive tilt of his head. Devil Princess, his voice carried clearly in the evening air. This doesn't concern your kind. We seek the Red Dragon Emperor who entered your territory. Stand aside, and we'll overlook this trespass. Rias's response was measured, her post. You're betraying nothing of their prepared ambush. The Red Dragon Emperor has claimed my protection. Any who seek him must negotiate with the House of Gremory. The fallen angel laughed, the sound harsh and grating. Negotiate. The boosted gear doesn't belong in devil hands. Kokobile has claimed it for the fallen, to restore our rightful place. Diplomatic. Kevin commented sarcastically from their hiding place. Ben watched the remaining fallen angels position themselves strategically around the clearing. Their movements revealed military precision. These weren't random thugs but trained soldiers. The situation would escalate quickly. Time to introduce myself, Ben decided, selecting an alien form suited for the encounter. The Omnitrix flashed, and Big Chill's spectral form rose from the rooftop, translucent wings unfurling. The transformation felt different. The boosted gear had integrated seamlessly, crimson scales appearing along one arm of the necrophrygian form, draconic energy mixing with the natural cold Big Chill generated. Boost, Ben whispered, activating the gauntlet's power. Boost. Energy surged through him, the familiar chill of Big Chill's powers intensifying to new levels. Ben went intangible, descending silently toward the confrontation below. The fallen angel leader continued his monologue, unaware of Ben's approach. Surrender the Red Dragon Emperor now, or we'll take him by force. Kokobeel's patience grows thin. Actually, Ben said, materializing directly between Rias and the fallen angel, you could just ask me yourself. The fallen angel stumbled backward, shock replacing arrogance as he beheld the transformed Ben. What manner of creature? The name's Big Chill, Ben interrupted, frost forming around his spectral form. And I hear you've been looking for me. The fallen angel recovered quickly, spears of light forming in his hands. The sacred gear belongs to Lord Kokobeel. Surrender it, abomination. Ben sighed, the sound producing visible frost in the air. Why do they always choose the hard way? The light spear launched toward Ben, but passed harmlessly through his intangible form. The fallen angel's eyes widened in disbelief. My turn, Ben said, drawing a deep breath before exhaling a wave of arctic cold enhanced by the boosted gear's power. The blast froze the fallen angel solid in an instant, ice crackling up his wings and across his body. The remaining fallen angels abandoned their positions, diving toward Ben with light spears blazing. The trap sprung perfectly. Heba burst from the tree line, his sword a blur as he intercepted two attackers. Kaneko appeared beneath another, her small form belying monstrous strength as she caught him mid-dive and slammed him into the ground. Akano took to the air, lightning crackling between her fingertips as she engaged the highest flyer. Boost, Ben called again, feeling the power double once more. Boost. The fallen angel's light spears shattered against his ice shields. The draconic energy making Big Chill's natural abilities vastly more potent. Ben phased through attacks, materializing only to deliver precisely targeted blasts of super coup. Lead air that immobilized his opponents without killing them. One fallen angel, craftier than the others, disengaged from the main battle and sped toward the trees where Gwen and Asia waited. Ben spotted the maneuver immediately. Kevin, he called, already moving to intercept. On it, Kevin launched himself from a nearby tree, metal arms extended to tackle the fleeing fallen angel. The fallen angel dodged, more agile than expected, and redirected toward Ben instead. No, not toward Ben, but toward the park entrance where a civilian had wandered too close to the battle. A teenage boy with roan hair stood frozen in shock at the supernatural combat before him. Gwen, civilian, Ben shouted, pushing Big Chill's speed to its limit. Mana shields materialized around the teenager just as the fallen angel's light spear launched. The shield held, but the impact sent the boy sprawling. The fallen angel circled back, determination evident in his single-minded focus on the human witness. Ben made a split-second decision, slapping the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. XLR8. The transformation wave replaced Big Chill with the Kinesolaran form, again modified by the boosted gear's presence. Crimson scales appeared along his velocity-adapted limbs, the helmet visor tinted with dragon-like aspects. Boost. With the third activation, XLR8's already incredible speed tripled. Ben moved faster than the eye could track, intercepting the fallen angel mid-dive and delivering a rapid sequence of strikes that left the attacker tumbling to the ground, wings crumpled. Ben skidded to a stop beside the civilian, who stared up with a mixture of terror and awe. You okay? The boy nodded mutely, then found his voice. What are you? Long story, Ben replied, scanning the battlefield. The remaining fallen angels were in retreat, their mission clearly a failure. Stay down and, a massive light spear, different from the others, streaked from the darkness beyond the park. Th is one burned with intensity that cast harsh shadows across the entire clearing. Ben reacted instinctively, grabbing the civilian and activating XLR-8's speed once more. They barely cleared the impact zone as the spear struck, detonating with concussive force that shattered trees and scorched grass in a 30-foot radius. When the dust settled, a new figure hovered above the battlefield, a fallen angel whose 10 wings and regal bearing marked him as far more powerful than the scouts. Kokabeel, Rias identified, her voice tight with tension. The fallen angel leader surveyed the scene with contempt, his gaze eventually settling on Ben. So the rumors are true. The Red Dragon Emperor has bonded with a shapeshifter of some kind. Ben gently set the civilian down behind cover, where Gwen immediately moved to protect him. Stay here, he instructed before turning back to face Kokabeel. The fallen angel's power was palpable, a pressure in the air that made breathing difficult for those nearby. His light spears glowed with energy that could vaporize ordinary beings instantly. Surrender the boosted gear, Kokabeel demanded, voice resonating with supernatural authority. Its power bellow, NGS in worthy hands, not wasted on a human aberration. Ben reverted to human form, standing his ground despite being physically outmatched in this state. The boosted gear remained on his arm, pulsing with defiant energy. Funny thing about power, Ben replied, his voice steady despite the danger. It's not about who deserves it, but what they do with it. Kokabeel's eyes narrowed dangerously. Philosophy from a child, how tedious. Not philosophy, Ben corrected, his hand hovering over the Omnitrix. Experience. The fallen angel leader raised his hand, another light spear forming, this nay large enough to destroy the entire park and everyone in it. Experience teaches through pain. Allow me to educate you. As the spear launched, Ben activated the Omnitrix, selecting a form he rarely used but that seemed appropriate for the situation. Alien X. The transformation engulfed him in cosmic energy, replacing his human form with the celestial sapien's midnight black body etched with stars. Like the previous transformations, this one incorporated the boosted gear, but differently. Rather than physical scales, the gauntlet's energy infused Alien X's cosmic nature, crimson patterns of draconic power weaving through the star field of his form. Kokabeel's light spear struck the transformed Ben, and simply ceased to exist, its energy absorbed into the cosmic void of Alien X's body. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Kokabeel's face. What manner of creature are you? Ben didn't answer immediately. Within Alien X's consciousness, the familiar debate between Saren and Bellicus paused as they assessed the new element in their shared existence. The dragon essence, Bellicus noted with uncharacteristic interest. It bypasses our deliberative requirements. Fascinating, Serena agreed. The boosted gear's power operates on different principles than our own. It doesn't require consensus. Ben, usually caught between their endless arguments, found the booze. Ted Gear provided a strange harmony, not overriding the personalities, but facilitating communication between them. Celestial sapiens, I have not encountered your kind in eons. Dedrag's voice resonated within the shared consciousness, recognized by both Bellicus and Serena as an entity of significant age and power. The Red Dragon Emperor, Bellicus acknowledged. Your presence simplifies matters. Motion to grant Ben Tennyson temporary executive authority for this encounter. Seconded, Serena agreed immediately. Ben, accustomed to lengthy negotiations for the simplest actions, was stunned by their quick consensus. Motion carried. Externally, only seconds had passed. Kokabeel remained hovering before Alien X, increasingly wary of the cosmic being that had neutralized his attack effortlessly. I am Alien X, Ben finally responded, his voice carrying the harmonic overlay of multiple consciousnesses speaking in unison. And you threaten what I protect. Kokabeel, despite his arrogance, recognized power beyond his own. He backed away slightly, calculating odds. This isn't over, Red Dragon Emperor. The boosted gear will serve our cause, whether you live to see it or not. With a flash of light that temporarily blinded all present, Kokabeel vanished, retreating to reassess this unexpected development. Ben allowed Alien X to revert to human form, the cosmic power fading as the Omnitrix timed out. The exertion of combining such powerful forces left him momentarily drained, but the immediate threat had passed. Rias approached, amazement evident despite her usual composure. What was that form? I've never sensed anything like it. Alien X, Ben explained, catching his breath. Probably the most powerful transformation I have, but also the most difficult to control. The boosted gear somehow made it easier. My power harmonizes with yours in unexpected ways, partner. This bears further exploration. The dragon's voice emanated from the gauntlet, audible to all present. Diedreg seemed as intrigued by the combination as Ben himself. Gwen joined them, supporting the civilian teenager who still appeared shocked by the evening's events. Ben, this is Issei Hyodo. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The boy, Issei, stared at Ben with undisguised awe. You're human, but those transformations, it's complicated, Ben replied with a tired smile. Welcome to the club of normal life ruined by supernatural encounters. Rias studied Issei with unexpected interest. Not entirely normal. He has latent power, faint, but present. A potential sacred gear wielder, perhaps. Is that why the fallen angel targeted him specifically? Gwen asked. Likely, Rias confirmed. They eliminate potential threats before they develop. Issei looked between them, confusion giving way to a strange determination. Sacred gear, like that gauntlet thing. I could get one of those. Ben regarded the teenager with newfound respect for his resilience. Most civilians would be catatonic after witnessing such events. Trust me, it complicates your life. My life could use some complication, Issei replied with unexpected conviction. A special Lee if it means I could fight like you did. Rias smiled, a decision forming in her eyes. We should continue this discussion somewhere safer. Kokabeel will return with reinforcements. As they gathered to depart, Ben felt the boosted gear pulse once more, recognition, perhaps, of how quickly his world was changing. In less than 24 hours, he'd become part of a supernatural conflict that had apparently been raging for millennia alongside the alien threats he'd fought for years. The coincidence seemed too perfect, too orchestrated. Whatever force had guided the boosted gear to him had plans beyond a simple transfer of power. As Ben looked around at Devils, his human companions, and the newly discovered sacred gear on his arm, one certainty remained. Nothing would be the same again. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Red Dragon Rising. Ben stood in the abandoned quarry outside Bellwood, the morning sun casting long shadows across the scarred terrain. Perfect testing grounds, remote, resilient, and far from civilian eyes. The boosted gear materialized on his left arm with a mere thought, its crimson scales gleaming with ancient power. All right, Diedreg, Ben spoke to the consciousness within the gauntlet. Let's figure out exactly what we're working with. Proceed with caution, partner. Our energies interact in unprecedented ways. Gwen sat cross-legged atop a boulder, her laptop balanced precariously as she prepared to record the tests. Kevin leaned against his car nearby, arms folded across his chest with casual vigilance. I've set up energy sensors around the perimeter, Gwen called. Try to keep the explosions to a minimum this time. Ben grinned. No promises. The Omnitrix hummed beneath his fingertips as he selected his first transformation. Let's start with something basic. Forearms. Emerald light engulfed him, replacing his human form with the towering Tetraman. The boosted gear expanded to accommodate Forearm's massive left arm, its draconic D.E sign seeming to flow into the alien's red skin. Physical integration looks stable, Gwen noted, fingers flying across her keyboard. How does it feel? Forearms flexed all four arms, the boosted G-ear responding naturally to his movements. Like it belongs there. None of the resistance I feel with some transformations. Try activating it, Kevin suggested, pushing off from his car with newfound interest. Boost. Forearms called out. Boost. The gauntlet's gem illuminated as energy surged through Forearm's already formidable body. The Tetraman's natural strength doubled instantly, causing the ground beneath his feet to crack from the mere shift in his stance. Whoa, Forearms muttered, steadying himself. That's intense. Energy output just tripled, Gwen reported, eyes widening at her readings. The boosted gear isn't just adding to your alien forms, it's multiplying their natural abilities. Kevin whistled. That's gonna leave a mark. Forearms approached a boulder roughly the size of a truck. Ordinarily, Lifting such an object would require significant effort even for a Tetraman. With the boosted gear activated, he hoisted it effortlessly with a single hand. Let's try another boost, Forearms decided. Boost. The second activation sent another wave of power coursing through him. The boulder in his hand suddenly felt like styrofoam. With casual ease, Forearms tossed it skyward, where it continued rising until it became a distant speck against the blue. Ben. Kevin pointed upward. That's leaving the atmosphere. Oops. Forearms grimaced. Stronger than I expected. Gwen's expression shifted from scientific curiosity to concern. Your energy levels are spiking dangerously. The Tetraman physiology is straining to contain the power. Forearms felt it too, a building pressure within his transformed body, like trying to force a fire hose through a garden sprinkler. Switching forms. Need something that can handle energy better. He slapped the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Chromastone. The crystalline form of the crystal sapine replaced Forearms, instantly alleviating the pressure. The boosted gear integrated differently Air, the crimson scales merging with Chromastone's purple crystals to create a hybrid limb that pulsed with harmonized energy. Better, Ben confirmed, examining his transformed arm. Chromastone naturally absorbs and redirects energy. The boosted gear's power has somewhere to flow. Energy readings are stabilizing, Gwen agreed. Try channeling it. Chromastone raised his arms, focusing the combined energies. Rainbow-colored light infused with Crimson Dragon energy shot skyward in a controlled beam that split the clouds above. Impressive light show, Kevin commented. But what happens when you boost in this form? Let's find out, Chromastone replied. Boost. The energy cycling through his crystalline body intensified, rainbow patterns gaining crimson undertones throughout his form. Chromastone directed this enhanced power toward a distant cliff face. The resulting beam carved through solid rock like butter, leaving a perfectly cylindrical tunnel extending far into the mountain. Precision and power, Gwen noted. The boosted gear enhances control as well as raw output. Kevin approached a secondary boulder, knocking on it with his knuckles. Let's see how it handles impact. Hit this. Chromastone lowered his energy output and approached. Stand back. With the boosted gear, even a casual punch from Chromastone reduced the boulder to dust that scattered in the morning breeze. Not fragments, microscopic particles. Molecular disintegration, Gwen whispered, reviewing her readings. You're not just breaking it, you're separating the molecular bonds. Ben reverted to human form, the exertion leaving him slightly winded. The boosted gear remained on his arm, its glow dimming as the power receded. 2 boosts seems to be my current limit in most forms, Ben observed. Catching his breath. After that, the strain gets difficult to manage. Your tolerance will increase with practice, partner. Previous wielders eventually achieved 12 consecutive boosts. 12. Kevin whistled. You'd be able to punch out way big. Ben flexed the boosted gear experimentally. What about transformations that already manipulate energy? Like feedback or atomics? Proceed with extreme caution. Such combinations could produce exponential rather than multiplicative effects. Maybe save those experiments for when we're not standing on a fault line, Gwen suggested dryly. Ben nodded, selecting another transformation. Let's try something different. Ghost Freak. The transformation into the Ectonorite felt distinctly different. As the spectral form materialized, the boosted gear seemed to phase in and out of tangibility, its draconic energy struggling to integrate with Ghost Freak's unique physiology. This feels wrong, Ghost Freak's raspy voice observed. Like oil and water, Ectonorites exist partially in another dimension. My power seeks physical form. Ghost Freak attempted to activate the boosted gear, but instead of the usual response. The gauntlet flickered erratically. Boost. Incompatible. Realigning. Pain shot through Ghost Freak's form as conflicting energies clashed. Ben quickly reverted to human, dropping to one knee as the backlash subsided. Some combinations don't work, he concluded, breathing heavily. Good to know. Gwen helped him up. It seems transformations with clear physics. AL forms integrate better than energy-based or extra-dimensional ones. One more test, Ben decided after recovering. Something with enhanced perception. The Omnitrix cycled to a rarely used transformation. Wildmutt. The Vulpimancer's form replaced Ben's human body, orange fur and powerful limbs adapted for tracking and hunting. The boosted gear appeared on one foreleg, its scales blending seamlessly with Wildmutt's hide. Though Wildmutt couldn't speak, Ben experienced the integration immediately. The Vulpimancer's sensory pits, normally detecting heat and movement, suddenly expanded in capability. He could sense energy signatures, differentiate between life forms on a cellular level, and even detect the faint remnants of power from previous battles in the quarry. Kevin approached cautiously. Working. Wildmutt nodded, then activated the boosted gear. Boost. The enhancement of Wildmutt's senses nearly overwhelmed Ben. He could detect the heartbeats of insects hundreds of yards away, smell water flowing through underground aquifers, and sense electromagnetic fields generated by distant power lines. More significantly, he could perceive energy patterns previously invisible, including faint traces of supernatural energy unlike anything he'd encountered before. Wildmutt reverted to human form, Ben's eyes wide with realization. They're everywhere. What's everywhere? Gwen asked. Supernatural energies, Ben explained, pointing in multiple directions. As Wildmutt, I could sense them, faint but distinct from alien energy signatures. They're all around us, all the time. We just couldn't perceive them before. Kevin frowned. You saying Bellwood's been crawling with ghosts and devils and we never noticed? Not just Bellwood, Ben corrected. Everywhere. It's like discovering an entire ecosystem that's been hiding in plain sight. Gwen's expression turned thoughtful. It makes sense. My magic has always drawn from sources I couldn't fully explain. If there's an entire supernatural dimension overlapping ours. The conversation halted as Ben's phone rang. He checked the caller ID, surprise crossing his features. It's Julie. Julie. Kevin raised an eyebrow. Hasn't she been in France or something? Japan, Ben corrected, answering the call. Julie. Hey, it's Ben. Julie's voice came through clearly, excitement evident. Guess who's back in Bellwood? 2 hours later, Ben sat across from Julie Yamamoto at Mr. Smoothie, the familiar setting highlighting how much had changed since they'd last seen each other. Julie looked different, more mature. Her short black hair now shoulder-length and styled with subtle highlights. Her tennis career had taken her around the world, transforming the shy girl he'd dated in high school into a confident young woman. Paris was amazing, but Tokyo changed everything, Julie was saying, animatedly describing her year abroad. I got to train with former Olympic champions, compete in international tournaments. It was incredible. Ben smiled, genuinely happy for her success. Sounds like you found your path. I think I have, Julie agreed, stirring her smoothie thoughtfully. But what about you? Still saving the universe on a regular basis? Before Ben could answer, the boosted gear materialized unbidden on his arm, responding to a sudden spike in supernatural energy nearby. Julie's eyes widened at the crimson gauntlet. New watch? She asked, surprised. I thought the Omnitrix was one of a kind. Ben hesitated, unsure how to explain. Their relationship had ended amicably when Julie's tennis career took her overseas, but they'd agreed to remain friends. How much should he burden her with? It's complicated, he finally said, deciding on honesty. The short version. This is the boosted gear. It contains the spirit of an ancient dragon named Dedrake, and apparently I'm now something called the Red Dragon Emperor. Julie stared at him for a long moment before laughing softly. Only you, Ben Tennyson. I leave for 1 year, and you add, Dragon Emperor, to your resume. Her easy acceptance reminded Ben why he'd cared for her so deeply. Julie had always taken his extraordinary life in stride, finding normalcy in the chaos. It happened yesterday, Ben explained, relieved by her reaction. Dimensional incident, pocket universe, dragon spirit transfer, the usual Tuesday. And here I thought qualifying for the Asian circuit was exciting, Julie replied with a smirk. So what does it do? Besides the obvious fashion statement. Ben extended the gauntlet. It doubles my power each time it activates. Combined with the Omnitrix, it's game-changing. Julie's expression grew more serious. And I'm guessing it comes with new enemies. Already made some, Ben confirmed. There's this whole supernatural world that's apparently been here all along. Angels, devils, fallen angels. The previous owner of this gauntlet was killed by a fallen angel warhawk named Kokabeel. Who's now after you? Julie concluded, the pattern familiar from their shared history. Ben nodded. Met him yesterday. Not the friendliest guy. Julie reached across the table, placing her hand on the boosted gear without hesitation. The gauntlet warmed slightly at her touch, but remained inactive. Some things never change, she said with a gentle smile. Always finding new ways to protect people. The moment was interrupted as the boosted gear pulsed with warning. Ben's instincts, honed through years of combat, registered the threat immediately, a presence observing them with predatory focus. Julie, he said calmly, when I say run, head straight for the counter and stay down. Her eyes widened with recognition of his tone, but she maintained her composure. What is it? We're being watched, Ben replied, casually scanning their surroundings while activating the Omnitrix. 3 o'clock, rooftop. Julie's training as an athlete served her well. She didn't turn to look. Instead reaching for her phone as if checking messages. Alien or other, Ben confirmed. Supernatural signature. The presence moved, a blur of black feathers against the clear sky. A light spear materialized, its brilliance momentarily outshining the sun as it launched toward them. Now, Ben shouted, transforming in a flash of emerald light. Diamond Head's crystalline form intercepted the spear, his reflective body redirecting the energy harmlessly skyward. The boosted gear integrated with his transformed arm, crimson scales merging with the green crystals. Boost. Diamond Head called out immediately. Boost. Enhanced crystals erupted from the ground, forming a protective barrier around the civilians in the outdoor seating area. Julie had successfully reached cover, helping an elderly couple down behind the counter. The fallen angel descended, black wings spanning 12 feet as he hovered above the parking lot. Unlike Cocobeel's soldiers from the previous day, this one wore modern clothing, a business suit incongruously paired with his supernatural appendages. Red Dragon Emperor, the fallen angel called out, his voice carrying unnatural resonance. Lord Cocobeel sends his regards. Diamond Head stepped forward, crystal platforms forming beneath his feet to elevate him to the fallen angel's level. Tell your boss I'm not interested in his job offer. The fallen angel smiled thinly. This isn't a recruitment attempt. It's a message. With blinding speed, he launched 3 more light spears, not at Ben, but at the nearby buildings where civilians had taken shelter. Diamond Head reacted instantly, firing crystal shards that intercepted each spear mid-flight. Boost. He called again, needing the additional power. Boost. His second activation enhanced Diamond Head's crystallokinesis exponentially. Massive crystal structures erupted around the fallen angel, attempting to cage him. The supernatural being evaded with supernatural grace, his wings carrying him higher. The message is simple, the fallen angel continued, unperturbed. Your human attachments make you vulnerable. He gestured toward Julie, who was helping. Evacuate civilians through the back exit. That one, for instance. Former mate, still harbors affection. Exploitable. Rage flared within Ben, a protective fury amplified by Dedrag's draconic influence. Crystal spikes shot upward with unprecedented speed, nearly impaling the fallen angel who barely dodged. You touch her, Diamond Head growled, his voice deepened by both transformation and anger. And there won't be enough left of you to reincarnate. The fallen angel laughed, the sound like breaking glass. There it is, the dragon's wrath. Lord Cocobeel will be pleased to know it can be provoked so easily. This was a test, Ben realized. Not an assassination attempt but an assessment of his reactions, his attachments, his control over the boosted gear's influence. Diamond Head forced his anger down, focusing instead on strategy. The fallen angel continued circling, launching occasional light spears that Ben deflected with crystal shields. Each attack seemed designed to provoke rather than damage. Your predecessor lasted 3 years after awakening the boosted gear, the fallen angel taunted. Let's see if you survive 3 days. With that ominous declaration, the fallen angel ascended rapidly, vanishing into a concealing magic circle that appeared above him. Ben maintained Diamond Head's form until he confirmed no additional threats remained, then reverted to human. The boosted gear remained materialized, its glow gradually subsiding as the immediate danger passed. Julie approached cautiously, her composure admirable given the circumstances. I see some things definitely haven't changed. Ben ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. Julie, I'm sorry. Being around me puts you in danger. Being around you has always put me in danger, she replied practically. That's not new. What was new was the calculating gleam in her eyes, an analytical assessment of the situation that hadn't been there during their high school days. This Kokabeel, she continued. He's targeting people you care about to get to you. Ben nodded grimly. Classic strategy. Find the hero's weakness. Julie's response surprised him. Then we need to make sure we're not weaknesses. What do you mean? I mean, Julie clarified, determination replacing shock, that I refuse to be used against you. If these supernatural threats are going to target your friends anyway, we should be prepared. Ben stared at her, seeing a strength of resolve that matched his own. You're suggesting training, Julie confirmed. Whatever this supernatural world is, I want to understand it. Protect myself against it, maybe even help you fight it. Before Ben could respond, his phone rang, Gwen's ringtone. He answered immediately. What's up? We've got company, Gwen reported tensely. Devils. At our front door. Quote. The Gremory magic circle illuminated Kevin's garage in crimson light as Rias and Akino materialized. Their school uniforms had been replaced by more formal attire. Rias in an elegant crimson dress that matched her hair, Akino in a traditional Miko outfit that emphasized her Japanese heritage. Ben, Gwen, Kevin, and Julie stood ready, the confrontation at Mr. Smoothie having put them on high alert. The boosted gear remained on Ben's arm, responsive to the devil presence. Apologies for the unannounced visit, Rias began, her aristocratic bearing evident even in apology. We detected the fallen angel incursion and came to offer assistance. You're a bit late, Kevin noted dryly. Akino's violet eyes assessed the garage with subtle interest. We were delayed by territorial protocols. Entering plumber jurisdiction required additional clearances. Ben raised an eyebrow. The plumbers know about devils. Certain divisions, Rias confirmed. Your grandfather has maintained the separation between alien and supernatural threats for decades. Until now, there's been little overlap. Gwen stepped forward, natural diplomat among them. What changed? Rias's gaze settled on the boosted gear. That did. A human wielding both the Omnitrix and a Longinus sacred gear represents an unprecedented convergence of powers that were never meant to interact. The fallen angel said something similar, Ben recalled. Called it a message. Testing my reactions. Akino nodded, unsurprised. Kokabeel is methodical despite his warmongering. He'll analyze your capabilities before committing his main forces. Julie, who had remained silent during the exchange, suddenly spoke. You're Rias Gremory, the devil princess Ben mentioned. All eyes turned to her. Rias appraising the human with newfound interest. And you are Julie Yamamoto, she replied confidently. Ben's friend. The subtle emphasis on friend wasn't lost on anyone present. Rias smiled, something ancient and knowing in her expression. A pleasure, Miss Yamamoto. Any friend of the Red Dragon Emperor is welcome in devil territory. Ben stepped between them instinctively. Protective impulses triggered by the predatory assessment in Rias's gaze. Julie was targeted today because of me. I need to know how to protect her, protect all of my friends, from supernatural threats. Rias exchanged glances with Akino before responding. There are options. Protective wards, enchantments, training in fundamental detection magic. Or becoming part of your peerage, Gwen interjected. Having researched Devil Society overnight. Turning humans into devils under your command. The temperature in the garage seemed to drop several degrees as tension thickened. Rias maintained her composure, though a flicker of annoyance crossed her features at having her society's practices so bluntly stated. That is indeed an option, though not one I was suggesting, she clarified. Reincarnation is a sacred contract, not a security measure. Let's stay focused, Ben suggested, diffusing the brewing conflict. The fallen angels are escalating. They're studying my connections, my fighting style, how I use the boosted gear. Which means they're planning something bigger, Kevin concluded. Akino stepped forward, her traditional Miko garments rustling softly. Our intelligence. CE suggests Kokabeel has assembled a force of over 50 fallen angels in the region, including several high-ranking lieutenants. An invasion force, Ben translated. Precisely, Rias confirmed, but the target remains unclear. Is he after you specifically, or using you to draw out other powers? Julie, ever practical, interrupted the tactical discussion. Can we back up? Some of us are new T. Oh, the supernatural world exists revelation and could use some context. Rias's expression softened fractionally. Of course. The abridged version, then. Angels, fallen angels, and devils have existed alongside humanity since biblical times. A great war between our factions ended in stalemate centuries ago, with an uneasy peace maintained since. Kokabeel was a high-ranking general during the war, Akino continued. He never accepted the peace and has worked for centuries to restart hostilities. And now he thinks the boosted gear will give him the edge he needs, Ben concluded, pieces falling into place. Rias nodded gravely. The Red Dragon Emperor's power, if fully unleashed, could indeed tip the balance. Previous wielders have altered the course of supernatural history. Ben absorbed this information, considering implications beyond the immediate threat. This morning, I was testing combinations of the boosted gear with different alien transformations. Some worked better than others. We observed. Rias admitted without apology. Your diamond head form handled the fallen angel efficiently. Kevin crossed his arms. You were spying on us. Monitoring, Akino corrected, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The boosted gear's energy signature is impossible to miss for those attuned to supernatural frequencies. Gwen, ever the strategist, redirected the conversation. If Kokabeel's building an army, we need allies. My magic can counter some supernatural threats, but not 50 fallen angels. The House of Gremory stands with the Red Dragon Emperor, Rias stated formally. My peerage will support you against Kokabeel's forces. Why? Ben asked directly, sensing ulterior motives beneath the generous offer. What does your house gain from this alliance? Rather than take offense, Rias seemed pleased by his perception. Political capital, for one. The faction that allies with the new Red Dragon Emperor gains significant standing. There are also RCH opportunities. The interaction between your Omnitrix and the boosted gear represents new magical frontiers. At least she's honest, Kevin muttered. There's more, Ben intuited, studying Rias's composed features. Something personal. Quote, a flicker of genuine emotion crossed the devil's aristocratic mask. Surprise, perhaps, at being read so easily. Perceptive. Yes, there are personal considerations. My situation is complicated by arranged political obligations that I seek to circumvent. She's engaged, Akino clarified, amusement dancing in her violet eyes. To an insufferable devil named Riser Phoenix. A powerful alliance with the Red Dragon Emperor could provide leverage to renegotiate terms. Julie raised an eyebrow. Devils have arranged marriages. Pureblood devils, Rias corrected. A hint of bitterness entering her otherwise controlled tone. Bloodlines and political alliances remain paramount in the underworld. Ben considered this new dimension, not just supernatural war but supernatural politics. The boosted gear pulsed on his arm, Deedrake's consciousness stirring. The Gremory clan has always been shrewd. They offer genuine alliance, but with calculated benefits. So we help each other. Ben summarized, addressing both Deedrake's observation and Rias's proposal. You provide supernatural expertise and support against Kokabeel, while I provide political leverage and research opportunities. Rias smiled, pleased by his directness. Precisely. A mutually beneficial arrangement. With one condition, Ben added. Protection for my friends and family extends beyond the immediate threat. Anyone connected to me gets whatever magical safeguards you can provide. The Devil Princess considered this briefly before nodding. Acceptable. We'll begin immediately with basic wards for your human companions. Julie stepped forward. I want more than wards. I want training. All eyes turned to her again, surprise evident, particularly from Ben. Julie met their stares with unwavering determination. If I'm going to be targeted anyway, I refuse to be helpless. I want to understand how to defend against supernatural threats. Akino studied Julie with newfound respect. Admirable resolve. Basic defensive magic is within human capability, though it requires aptitude and dedication. I have both, Julie stated with the confidence of an athlete who had competed at international levels. Rias seemed intrigued by the human spirit. Very well. Kaneko can begin your instruction in fundamental defensive techniques. Her fighting style is well suited for human adaptation. Decision made. Rias turned back to Ben. Now, about Kokabeel's forces. We should coordinate defensive strategies before they make their next move. As the conversation shifted to tactical planning, Ben found himself in familiar territory. For all the supernatural elements, this was ultimately about protecting people from threats they couldn't handle alone, his life's work. Ince finding the Omnitrix at 10 years old. The boosted gear pulsed in agreement, dragon and wielder aligned in purpose if not yet in power. Sunset bathed Bellwood's highest skyscraper in golden light as Ben stood on the rooftop, overlooking the city he'd protected since childhood. Behind him, Rias Gremory observed in silence, her crimson hair catching the dying sunlight like living flame. "Beautiful view," she finally commented, approaching to stand beside him. "You can see why humans build these towers. It makes them feel like gods, looking down upon creation." Ben smiled slightly. "I've seen planets from orbit. Trust me, this view is plenty human." A comfortable silence settled between them, unexpected given their vastly different backgrounds. After hours of strategic planning with the others, this moment of quiet reflection seemed necessary for both. "You care deeply for this city," Rias observed, not a question but a statement. "It's home," Ben replied simply. "I've saved the universe a few times. But this place, these people, they're why I do it." Rias considered his words thoughtfully. "Devils live for millennia. Human attachment is something many of my kind find difficult to understand, investing so much in lives that burn briefly before fading." "Maybe that's the point," Ben suggested. "Because it's brief, it matters more. Every moment counts." The ill princess studied him with those unnaturally bright eyes, something ancient and yet curious in her gaze. "You're not what I expected, Ben Tennyson." "What did you expect?" "Someone corrupted by power," she admitted candidly. "The Omnitrix alone grants abilities beyond most supernatural entities. Add the boosted gear, and few beings in any realm could stand against you. Yet you remain grounded." Ben turned to face her fully, the setting sun silhouetting his form. "Power's just a tool. It doesn't define who you are, only what you can do. Who you are depends on your choices." The boosted gear materialized on his arm, responding to his conviction. Dedrag's voice emerged, audible to both. "Wise words. Many previous wielders were consumed by the dragon's power, becoming the title rather than the person." Rias nodded in acknowledgement of the ancient dragon's observation. "The Juggernaut drive, the ultimate expression of the boosted gear's power, achieved by sacrificing one's humanity to the dragon's instincts." "Not interested," Ben stated firmly. "I've got enough power options without losing myself." A smile touched Rias's lips, genuine amusement rather than political calculation. "So I've observed, your alien X form alone possesses reality-altering capabilities that rival primordial gods." "You've done your homework," Ben noted, impressed despite himself. "Know thy allies as thoroughly as thy enemies." Rias quoted. Devil proverb. The conversation paused as Ben's phone chimed with a message from Gwen. He checked it quickly, concern crossing his features. "Problem?" Rias inquired. "Maybe," Ben replied, showing her the text. "Energy disturbances at the city limits. Similar signature to the dimensional shifter from yesterday." Rias's expression grew serious. "Another incursion. Are Kokobil's forces?" "One way to find out," Ben decided, activating the Omnitrix. XLR-8 can get us there fastest. The transformation engulfed him in emerald light, replacing his human form with the velociraptor-like Kinesolaran. The boosted gear integrated seamlessly, crimson scales flowing along one arm of the streamlined form. "Hold on," XLR-8 instructed, extending an arm to Rias. The Devil Princess stepped closer, her composure momentarily faltering at the prospect of traveling at supersonic speeds. "Perhaps I should fly." XLR-8 didn't wait for her to finish, scooping her up with practiced ease. "Trust me, this is faster." Before Rias could protest, they were moving, the world blurring around them as XLR-8 accelerated to velocities that turned the cityscape into streaks of color. Despite her supernatural nature, Rias instinctively clung tighter, unused to such rapid transportation. They reached the city limits in seconds, XLR-8 skidding to a halt atop a hill, overlooking the highway entrance to Bellwood. Below, reality itself seemed to warp and distort, the air rippling like heat waves above hot asphalt, but with prismatic colors bleeding through the distortions. "Dimensional tear," Rias confirmed, regaining her composure as XLR-8 set her down. Smaller than yesterday's, but expanding. XLR-8 assessed the situation with enhanced perception. No shifter yet, but something's definitely coming through. We should contact the others, Rias suggested, preparing a communication spell. No time, XLR-8 responded as the tear suddenly expanded. Whatever's coming, it's happening now. The dimensional rift pulsed, stretching wider as something massive began to emerge, not a shifter like before, but a creature of shadow and flame. 8 feet tall with the general shape of a human but composed entirely of dark fire that burned without illuminating its surroundings. Ifrit, Rias identified immediately, summoning her power of destruction, crimson-black energy that gathered around her hands. Fire elemental from the boundary realm. Extremely dangerous. XLR-8 reverted to human form, the boosted gear glowing in response to the supernatural threat. Fire. Huh, I know just what to use for that. The Omnitrix cycled through aliens before settling on his selection. Big Chill. The transformation replaced Ben with the moth-like Necrophrygian, whose EIC powers directly countered the fire elemental. The boosted gear integrated as before, crimson scales appearing along one arm of the spectral form. Boost. Big Chill called immediately. Boost. Enhanced by the boosted gear. Big Chill's cryokinetic abilities intensified dramatically. The very air around him crystallized with frost, temperature plummeting in a 30-foot radius. The Ifrit sensed the threat immediately, its formless head turning toward Big Chill. With surprising speed, it launched a stream of dark fire that seemed to devour light rather than produce it. Careful, Rias called out, launching her own attack from the opposite direction. Ifrit flames burned the soul, not just the body. Big Chill phased through the attack, the flames passing harmlessly through his intangible form. He countered with a focused freeze breath, the enhanced cold striking the elemental with devastating effect. The Ifrit shrieked, a sound like steel grinding against stone, as portions of its fiery body crystallized under the supernatural cold. It thrashed wildly, dark fire spreading across the ground in seeking tendrils. Rias maintained her distance, targeting the dimensional tear itself with her power of destruction. The crimson-black energy eroded the edges of the rift, slowly forcing it closed. The tear first, then the elemental, she called to Ben. Prevent reinforcements. Big Chill understood the strategy immediately. On it, he flew toward the rift, drawing the Ifrit's attention away from Rias. The elemental pursued, leaving a trail of smoldering earth where its dark fire touched natural material. Boost. Big Chill called again, needing additional power to contain both threats. Boost. With the second activation, Big Chill's powers reached new intensity. He exhaled a wave of absolute cold that engulfed both the Ifrit and the dimensional tear simultaneously. The rift's edges crystallized, its prismatic energies freezing in place before shattering like glass. The Ifrit, caught in the same blast, found half its body transmuted to lifeless ice. It roared in defiance, the remaining dark fire burning hotter in compensation. Not good enough, Big Chill observed, preparing another attack. Before he could act, Rias appeared behind the elemental, her power of destruction fully charged. Move. Big Chill phased through the ground, avoiding the path of her attack. Rias released her power in a focused beam that struck the partially frozen Ifrit with apocalyptic force. The crimson-black energy didn't just damage the elemental, it erased portions from existence, disintegrating the supernatural matter into nothingness. The Ifrit collapsed, its dark fire extinguished as the last of its form dissolved under Rias's power. Where it had stood, only a perfect circle of glass-smooth earth remained, all organic material completely annihilated by the power of destruction. Big Chill landed beside Rias, reverting to human form as the immediate threat passed. Impressive power. The power of destruction is my family's bloodline ability, Rias explained, a hint of pride in her voice. It doesn't merely damage, it unmakes. Ben studied the perfect circle of destruction with newfound respect for his ally. Remind me not to get on your bad side. Rias smiled, the expression softening her aristocratic features. I believe we work better as allies, don't you agree? Before Ben could respond, a slow clapping sound drew their attention. From the shadows of nearby trees emerged a figure Ben recognized immediately, the fallen angel who had attacked at Mr. Smoothie earlier that day. Touching cooperation, the fallen angel commented, his business suit incongruous with the black wings now folded behind him. The dragon and the devil princess, fighting side by side against a common foe. Ben tensed, the boosted gear materializing in response to the threat. Back for round 2. The fallen angel raised his hands in a placating gesture. Merely observing, Red Dragon Emperor. Lord Kokobile will be most interested to learn how quickly you adapt to supernatural threats. Rias stepped forward, power of destruction gathering around her once more. Delivering messages for your master. How the mighty have fallen, Danasik. The fallen angel, Danasik, smiled thinly at Rias's taunt. Lady Gremory, still playing at independence while your brother pulls the strings. How's the engagement to Phoenix progressing? A flash of genuine anger crossed Rias's features, her power flaring in response to the provocation. Ben placed a restraining hand on her arm, sensing the fallen angel's strategy. He's baiting us, Ben murmured, trying to assess how we respond to different provocations. Rias took a steadying breath, her power receding to manageable levels. Perceptive. Danasik observed their interaction with calculating eyes. Interesting. The human tempers the devil's rage. Not what Kokobile predicted. What did he predict? Ben asked directly, changing tactics. Information gathering worked both ways. The fallen angel seemed amused by the direct approach. That you would be consumed by the dragon's influence within days. That the devil would manipulate you into serving her house's ambitions. That your human attachments would make you predictable, exploitable. Sounds like he doesn't know me very well, Ben replied calmly. Perhaps not, Danasik conceded. But he knows the boosted gear. He knows what happens when human vessels attempt to contain draconic power beyond their understanding. Rias tensed beside Ben. The Ifrit was a test. You sent it to gauge our response. Clever girl, Danasik confirmed with mocking approval. Elementary threat, easily dispatched. Your coordination was noteworthy. Ben's patience wore thin. If Kokobile wants to test me, he should come himself instead of sending minions and monsters. Something like respect flickered across the fallen angel's features. Be careful what you wish for, Red Dragon Emperor. Lord Kokobile has personally ended the lives of 7 previous boosted gear wielders. With that ominous declaration, Danasik spread his wings and launched skyward, vanishing into a transportation circle before either Ben or Rias could act. He's toying with us, Rias observed, frustration evident in her voice. Psychological warfare. Ben nodded, the boosted gear pulsing with restrained energy. Testing boundaries, studying reactions, looking for weaknesses. Military intelligence gathering. You recognize the pattern, Rias noted, studying him with renewed interest. I've faced enough conquerors to recognize the playbook, Ben confirmed, selecting a new transformation on the Omnitrix. Stinkfly can track his energy signature. We might be able to locate their base of operations. Before he could transform, Rias placed a hand on his arm. Wait, there's something you should know about fallen angels like Danasik and Kokobile. Ben paused, reading the seriousness in her expression. What? They're ancient, Rias explained. Kokobile fought in the original war between heaven and hell. He's witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, participated in conflicts that shaped human history. His strategic thinking isn't measured in days or weeks, but in decades and centuries. You're saying this is just the opening move in a much longer game, Ben concluded. Rias nodded solemnly. For beings who live millennia, patience is both weapon and armor. Whatever Kokobile's ultimate plan, these tests serve a purpose beyond simple assessment. Ben considered this perspective, so different from the immediate threats he typically faced. Even intergalactic conquerors operated on timescales comprehensible to humans. Supernatural entities with lifespans measured in eons approached conflict differently. Then we change the timeline, Ben decided. Force his hand before he's ready. Rias raised an elegant eyebrow. How? By being unpredictable, Ben replied. A strategy forming. If he's studying us for patterns, we give him none. Random patrols, unexpected alliances, switching territories. Understanding dawned in Rias's expression. Deny him the intelligence he seeks, forcing him to act with incomplete information. Exactly, Ben confirmed. And while he's adjusting, we gather our own intelligence. I want to know everything about Kokobile, his history, his methods, his weaknesses. Rias smiled. Not the calculated political expression from earlier, but something genuine that transformed her features from merely beautiful to radiant. I believe I've underestimated you, Ben Tennyson. There's more strategic depth behind the hero facade than I anticipated. Ben returned the smile, pleased by the genuine respect in her voice. 5 years of saving the universe teaches you a few things about tactics. As they prepared to return to the others with news of the Ifrit and Donasek's appearance, Ben felt the boosted Ear pulse once more, but differently than before. Not warning or power, but something almost like approval. Deedraig's consciousness stirring in response to the connection forming between Wielder and Devil Princess. The partnership was unexpected, bridging worlds that had remained separate for millennia. Yet somehow, it felt right, as if the convergence of alien hero and supernatural royalty was not coincidence but inevitability. Whatever Kokobel planned, whatever threats emerged from the weakening dimensional barriers, they would face them together, human, devil, and dragon united in purpose if not yet in power. Elena Validus adjusted her microscope with practiced precision, focusing on the crystallized sample before her. The laboratory around her hummed with advanced technology, some human, some distinctly not. Screens displayed molecular structures alongside energy readings that fluctuated in patterns no conventional science could explain. Fascinating, she murmured, recording observations in her tablet. The energy signature contains traces of both quantum flux and taumaturgical resonance. A true hybrid. The sample, a fragment of ice created by Big Chill's enhanced Wers during the morning's testing session, continued to resist melting despite the laboratory's controlled temperature. Elena had collected it hours after Ben and the others departed, her scientific curiosity overriding professional boundaries. A knock at the laboratory door interrupted her analysis. Enter, she called without looking up from her work. Dr. Patel, her supervisor at the Bellwood Institute for Advanced Research, stepped inside. His expression conveyed both excitement and concern. The energy spikes are intensifying, he reported, handing her a tablet displaying real-time readings. Similar phenomena reported globally: Tokyo, London, Cairo, Prague. All matching the frequency we detected 3 days ago. Elena studied the data, her brilliant mind processing implications instantly. The barriers are weakening faster than projected. Whatever caused the initial breach is accelerating. The Defense Department is concerned. Drive. Patel continued. They've requested your presence at tomorrow's briefing. Elena nodded absently, attention returning to her sample. I'll prepare the presentation. After Dr. Patel departed, Elena locked the laboratory door and activated additional security protocols. Screens reconfigured, displaying information not included in official research parameters: interdimensional energy fluctuations, supernatural frequency analysis, and monitoring data for specific individuals. Ben Tennyson's image appeared on the central screen, alongside readings from both the Omnitrix and the newly acquired boosted gear. Elena studied the data with complex emotions crossing her features, scientific fascination warring with personal concern. Oh, Ben, she whispered to the empty lab. What have you gotten yourself into this time? Her tablet chimed with an encrypted notification. Elena entered a complex passcode, revealing a message from an unlisted contact. Convergence accelerating. Asset Tennyson now priority alpha. Proceed with phase 2. Elena closed the message. Decision crystallizing. After years of monitoring from a distance, maintaining the pretense of normal scientific research, events had forced her hand. Tomorrow would require direct intervention. Ben Tennyson needed to know what was really happening to the barriers between worlds, and why the boosted gear had chosen him specifically at this crucial moment. The sample under her microscope pulsed once, as if responding to her thoughts, before finally beginning to melt. Chapter 2 End Chapter 3, Powers Intertwined. The old schoolhouse that housed Kuo Academy's occult research club stood apart from the modern campus buildings like a fragment of another era. Victorian architecture, stained glass windows, and an atmosphere of genteel mystery, all carefully maintained separate the supernatural from the mundane. Ben stood before the ornate double doors, taking in the building's facade with a practiced eye. You sure this is the right place for our headquarters? He asked, glancing at Gwen. It screams, secret supernatural activity happens here, to anyone paying attention. His cousin adjusted her glasses, the morning sunlight catching on the lenses. That's part of the point. Rias explained that hiding in plain sight works better than complete secrecy. Humans see what they expect to see, an eccentric club for students interested in the occult. While actual devils conduct business inside, Kevin added, running a hand along the weathered stone exterior. Gotta admit, it's a smart setup. Julie stood slightly apart from the others, her athletic frame tense with anticipation. Since declaring her intention to learn supernatural self-defense, she'd approached the situation with the same disciplined focus she brought to tennis training. Now, facing her first formal introduction to Devil Society, she maintained outward composure despite understandable nerves. Ben noticed her tension and offered an encouraging smile. Ready, as I'll ever be, Julie replied with quiet determination. Just another world-changing experience with Ben Tennyson. The doors swung open before Ben could knock, revealing Akino in her school uniform. Her violet eyes sparkled with amusement at finding them hesitating on the threshold. Welcome to the Occult Research Club, she greeted, stepping aside with graceful hospitality. Rias is expecting you. The interior matched the Victorian exterior, rich wood paneling, antique furniture, and candlelight despite the morning hour. Crimson velvet curtains filtered the sunlight, casting the room in a perpetual twilig. That suited its supernatural occupants. Elaborate magical circles were inlaid into the hardwood floor, their arcane geometries pulsing with subtle power. Rias Gremory sat behind an ornate desk, her crimson hair contrasting dramatically with the dark wood. She rose as they entered, aristocratic bearing unmistakable even in a standard school uniform. Ben Tennyson, she welcomed, extending a hand in Western fashion. Thank you for accepting my invitation. Ben took her hand, noting the subtle warmth of her skin, higher than human temperature, a devil trait he'd begun to recognize. Figured, neutral ground would be good for strategy sessions, especially if we're combining teams. Around the room, the other members of Rias's peerage observed the newcomers with varying expressions. Kiba, the blonde knight, offered a friendly nod from his position leaning against a bookshelf. Kaneko, diminutive but radiating power, watched impassively while consuming a piece of cake at the corner table. Asia, the former nun, smiled shyly from a velvet couch, her gentle nature apparent even at a distance. A newcomer stood near the window, a young man with dark hair and an awkward posture that screamed. Recently introduced to supernatural reality. Ben recognized him immediately as Issei Hyodo, the civilian who'd stumbled into their battle with the fallen angels. I believe some formal introductions are in order, Rias suggested, gesturing toward comfortable seating arranged around a low table. My peerage has expanded since our last meeting. As everyone settled, Rias began the introductions with practiced grace. You know Akino Himahima, my queen and second in command. Akino bowed slightly, her traditional Japanese manners overlaying her devil nature. A pleasure to formalize our acquaintance. Yuto Kiba, my knight. Rias continued, indicating the blonde young man who inclined his head with a swordsman's precision. I look forward to testing my skills against the legendary Ben 10, Kiba said. Genuine interest in his voice. Kaneko Tuju, my rook. The white-haired girl acknowledged the introduction with a minimal nod, continuing to focus on her cake. Asia Argento, my bishop. Recently reincarnated after an unfortunate encounter with fallen angels. The blonde girl blushed at being the center of attention, her gentle demeanor at odds with the supernatural gathering. And Issei Hyodo, my pawn. Newest member of the Gremory household. The awkward young man straightened at his introduction, determination visible beneath his nervousness. Wait, Ben interjected, recognizing the significance. You reincarnated him. After our battle, Issei rubbed the back of his neck self-consciously. Yeah, turns out getting speared by a fallen angel is pretty fatal for humans. Lady Rias saved my life with a devil contract. He possessed a sacred gear with significant potential, Rias explained, practical even in matters of life and death. His sacrifice would have been wasteful. Gwen frowned slightly at the casual way Rias described reincarnating a human. And he agreed to this arrangement. The alternative was death, Issei replied before Rias could answer. And honestly, being a devil is pretty awesome so far. Super strength, magic circles, cool wings eventually. His enthusiasm seemed genuine despite the circumstances of his conversion. Ben studied the new devil carefully. There was something earnest about Issei that reminded Ben of himself at a younger age, thrust into extraordinary circumstances, adapting with determined optimism. Sacred gear? Ben asked, curious about the parallel. Like the boosted gear, Issei extended his arm, concentration furrowing his brow. A red gauntlet materialized, similar to the boosted gear in color but structurally different. Lacking the dragon scales and emerald gems that characterized Ddrake's vessel. Twice critical, Rias identified. It doubles the user's power once when activated. A common sacred gear, but with proper training. Quite useful. Ben's boosted gear materialized in response, the true draconic artifact recognizing its lesser counterpart. The contrast was striking. Issei's gauntlet aimed almost like a mass-produced version of the legendary weapon Ben now carried. A pale imitation. Ddrake's voice emerged from the boosted gear, startling those who hadn't yet heard the dragon speak. But it reflects an affinity for draconic energy. Interesting coincidence. Whoa, Issei exclaimed, staring at Ben's gauntlet with unconcealed awe. It talks. And those scales, they're the real deal. Rias smiled indulgently at her newest servant's excitement. The boosted gear is one of 13 Longinus, sacred gears with power to kill gods. Your twice critical is more common. Though delivered kindly, the assessment clearly deflated Issei's enthusiasm. Ben, recognizing the feeling of being measured against impossible standards, decided to intervene. Every power has potential, he said, addressing Issei directly. It's not what you have, but how you use it that matters. Trust me, I've turned seemingly useless alien forms into game changers with the right approach. Encouragement visibly brightened Issei's demeanor. Thanks, man. Coming from the guy with both the Omnitrix and a legendary sacred gear, that means a lot. With introductions complete, Rias directed the conversation toward practical matters. Now that we're properly acquainted, perhaps a demonstration of your abilities, Ben. My peerage has only glimpsed your transformations in combat situations. Ben nodded, understanding the strategic value of knowing ally capabilities. Fair enough. Any requests? Something we haven't seen yet, Akino suggested, leaning forward with undisguised interest. Your combat forms are impressive, but I'm curious about versatility. Ben considered his options, cycling through the Omnitrix's holographic display. How about Echo? The transformation engulfed him in emerald light, replacing his human form with the small, silicon-based Sonoerosion. The boosted gear integrated uniquely with this form, crimson scales appearing along one arm of the white body, creating a striking contrast. Sound manipulation, Echo explained, his electronic voice reverberating slightly. Plus multiplication. To demonstrate, Echo split into 5 identical copies, each with their own integrated boosted gear. The devils watched with varying degrees of amazement as the duplicates arranged themselves around the room. Fascinating, Rias murmured, CIR. Cling one duplicate to examine it from all angles. Complete autonomous copies, each with consciousness. Shared consciousness, all 5 Echoes replied in perfect unison. Different bodies, same mind. Akino approached another duplicate, her scientific curiosity evident beneath her playful demeanor. And each copy maintains the sacred gear. That should be impossible by conventional magical theory. The Omnitrix energy signature alters conventional rules, Gwen explained, her magical expertise allowing her to bridge understanding between technologies. It creates quantum duplicates rather than magical constructs. To further demonstrate Echo's abilities, the duplicates produced a harmonized sonic attack, carefully modulated to vibrate a teacup on the table without shattering it. The precise control impressed even Kaneko, who briefly looked up from her cake. Boost. One Echo called experimentally. Boost. Energy surged through all 5 duplicates simultaneously, their silicon bodies glowing with enhanced power. The shared boost multiplied across copies created an unexpected effect, a visible aura of sonic energy surrounding each duplicate. Now that's interesting, Kevin commented. Observing the phenomenon, the boosted gear enhances all copies at once. Echo recombined into a single entity before transforming back to human form. The demonstrative had served its purpose, establishing capabilities without revealing all strategies. Impressive versatility, Kiba acknowledged, straightening from his casual pose. But I admit, I'm curious about your combat adaptability. Would you consider a friendly spar? Ben smiled at the challenge, recognizing a warrior's natural desire to test himself against new fighting styles. Sure. What did you have in mind? Kiba's hand moved in a blur of speed, materializing a European longsword from apparently nowhere. My specialty is swordsmanship enhanced by devil speed. I'd be interested to see how your transformations adapt to different combat paradigms. The training grounds behind the building should suffice, Rias suggested, clearly approving of the exchange. Akino can establish a barrier to prevent collateral damage. As the group moved outside, Ben noticed Julie watching the devils with analytical attention, studying movements, noting capabilities, mentally preparing for her promised training. Her athlete's mind approached supernatural combat like a new sport to master, breaking complex skills into learnable components. The training ground behind the old schoolhouse was larger than the building's exterior suggested, another supernatural manipulation of space. A flat clearing surrounded by ancient trees provided ample room for combat practice while remaining hidden from the main campus. Akino raised her hands, violet magic circles materializing at cardinal points around the clearing. Bounded field established. You may proceed without concern for outside observers. Kiba took position at one end of the clearing, his sword held in a classical European stance, point forward, body balanced for explosive movement. Any restrictions for our spar? Ben considered his options, cycling through the Omnitrix. Non-lethal only, obviously. Otherwise, let's keep it interesting. His selection made, Ben slammed down the Omnitrix core. Emerald light engulfed him, revealing Kicken Hawk's avian humanoid form. The boosted gear integrated along one arm, draconic scales complementing the natural talons of the transformation. Hand-to-hand specialist, Ben explained, assuming a kickboxing stance. Or talon to talon, I guess. Kiba smiled, accepting the challenge of facing a close combat expert. Excellent choice. Shall we begin? No formal signal was needed. Kiba moved with supernatural speed, his sword becoming a silver blur as he closed the distance between them. Ben reacted with Kicken Hawk's enhanced reflexes, sidestepping the initial thrust and countering with a sweeping kick. The Devil Knight evaded with graceful precision, his swordsmanship fluid and economical. No wasted movement, no telegraphed attacks, centuries of combat techniques compressed into a teenager's form. You're fast, Kicken Hawk acknowledged, blocking a sword strike with the boosted gear. The blade scraped against draconic scales with a shower of sparks. A knight's specialty, Kiba replied, disengaging to circle his opponent. Though you're keeping pace admirably. From the sidelines, the others watched with professional interest, combatants studying techniques, strategies, capabilities. Julie paid particular attention to Kiba's footwork, recognizing that supernatural speed still required proper foundation. Boost, Kicken Hawk called, deciding to escalate the friendly match. Boost. Enhanced by draconic energy, Kicken Hawk's already impressive speed doubled. The next exchange happened faster than human eyes could track, a flurry of sword strikes met with talon parries. Each combatant testing the other's limits without pushing toward injury. Kiba responded by channeling devil energy into his blade, the metal glowing with supernatural power. Excellent. Now we're properly warmed up. The spar continued for several minutes, both fighters demonstrating impressive adaptability. When Kicken Hawk's form proved evenly matched with Kiba's swordsmanship, Ben switched tactics. Let's try something different, he decided, slapping the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Armadillo. The massive Talpoidon replaced Kicken Hawk, mechanical drilling appendages and armor. Yellow plating creating a stark contrast to the previous agile form. The boosted gear integrated differently here, crimson scales flowing across one massive forearm, enhancing rather than replacing the natural drilling mechanism. Kiba reassessed his approach immediately, recognizing the futility of direct attacks against such armor. Switching to heavier ordnance, the knight held his hand out, his original sword dissolving as he concentrated. Flame delete. A massive two-handed greatsword materialized, its blade wreathed in magical flames. Kiba hefted it with surprising ease, Devil Stray. NGTH compensating for the enormous weapon. Fire against earth, Armadillo observed with amusement. Classic matchup. The next phase of combat shifted dramatically, Armadillo's powerful but slower movements against Kiba's flaming greatsword. Each impact reverberated across the training ground, the bounded field containing shockwaves that would otherwise disturb the entire campus. From the observation area, Rias watched with growing interest. His tactical adaptability is remarkable. Each transformation counters different aspects of Kiba's swordplay. "That's Ben," Gwen replied with undisguised pride. "He's been doing this since he was 10. Fighting everything from street thugs to intergalactic conquerors forces you to adapt quickly." The spar concluded when both combatants reached a natural stalemate, Armadillo's seismic powers creating unstable footing that neutralized Kiba's speed advantage, while the knight's flaming sword prevented direct engagement from the Talpiodan. Ben reverted to human form, grinning with genuine enjoyment. "That was fun. You're seriously skilled with those swords." Kiba dismissed his weapon, returning the compliment with a respectful bow. "And you adapt faster than any opponent I've faced." The combination of different species' abilities with the boosted gear creates truly unpredictable combat potential. As they rejoined the others, Akino approached Ben with a teacup in hand. You must be thirsty after such exertion." Ben accepted gratefully, the boosted gear dematerializing as he relaxed. "Thanks. Nice to spar without actual lives at stake for once." "Speaking of stakes," Rias interjected, returning to practicalities, "we should discuss our intelligence on Kokobeel's movements. Several fallen angel sightings have been reported near both Kuo and Bellwood in the past 12 hours. Kevin produced a tablet displaying a map with marked locations. "I've been tracking supernatural energy signatures. They're establishing perimeter points around both territories, standard encirclement tactics. Preparation for coordinated assault," Kiba concluded, shifting seamlessly from friendly sparring partner to tactical analyst. Claw, SSIC Fallen Angel strategy from the Great War. Before they could delve further into planning, a disturbance rippled through the bounded field surrounding the school grounds. Akino tensed, her pleasa NT demeanor replaced by combat readiness as she focused on the magical disturbance. "Someone's approaching," she reported. "Human, but with unusual energy signature. Not hostile, but definitely not ordinary." Gwen extended her magical senses, recognition dawning. "It's Elena Validus." Ben straightened, surprise evident. "Elena, here, how would she even know about this place?" The answer came moments later as Elena appeared at the edge of the clearing, laboratory coat billowing slightly in the morning breeze. Her appearance was immaculate as always, dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Tablet computer clutched professionally in one hand, security badge from the Bellwood Institute for Advanced Research prominently displayed. Her confident stride faltered slightly upon seeing the assembled group, particularly the devils whose supernatural nature would be evident to properly trained scientific observation. "Ben," she greeted, composure quickly recovering. "And Gwen, Kevin. Good, you're all here. Saves me multiple explanations." Rias stepped forward, power subtly gathering around her despite her polite expression. "You're trespassing on devil territory, human. Identify yourself properly." Elena met the devil princess's gaze without flinching, an impressive feat given the supernatural pressure Rias could exert when challenged. "Dr. Elena Validus, Special Projects Division, Interdimensional Research Initiative, and your Rias Gremory, heiress to the House of Gremory, Devil Faction." The casual identification of Rias's supernatural status created immediate tension. Kevin moved closer to Gwen protectively, while Kiba subtly positioned himself for potential intervention. Ben stepped between them, recognizing the potential for misunderstanding. "Elena, how do you know about devils? About any of this?" Quote. Elena's expression softened slightly when addressing Ben directly. "That's why I'm here. My division has been monitoring supernatural convergence points for years. The recent dimensional disturbances triggered our intervention protocols." She held up her tablet, displaying complex energy readings overlaid on a global map. "The barriers between dimensions are weakening systematically, not just between Earth and alien worlds, but between physical reality and supernatural planes. The Institute knows about supernatural entities." Gwen questioned, professional curiosity overriding caution. "A specialized division within it," Elena clarified. "Formed after the hybrid invasion when it became clear multiple dimensional threats existed. We monitor, document, and analyze, but rarely intervene directly. Until now," Ben concluded, reading between the lines. "What changed?" Alina's gaze dropped to the boosted gear, which had materialized on Ben's arm in response to the tension. That did. The convergence of alien technology and divine artifacts represents an unprecedented acceleration of interdimensional destabilization. She stepped forward, scientific fascination momentarily overriding professional distance. May I? Ben extended the gauntlet cautiously, allowing Elena to scan it with instruments from her pocket. The readings caused her eyes to widen. Extraordinary, she murmured. The energy signature is harmonic with the dimensional fractures we've been tracking. It's not just responding to the weakening barriers, it's synchronized with them somehow. Rias exchanged glances with Akino, supernatural understanding connecting dots that human science approached differently. The boosted gear is tied to the dimensional fabric Ruth the Red Dragon Emperor's existence across multiple planes. Elena nodded, surprisingly comfortable with devil metaphysics. Our analysis suggests similar conclusions, though we lack your intrinsic understanding of dragon energy. The scientific terminology applied to supernatural concepts created an unusual bridge between worldviews, Elena's research perspective complementing rather than contradicting the devil's magical knowledge. You said barriers are weakening systematically, Kevin noted, focusing on practical implications. Meaning this isn't natural, someone's doing it deliberately. Correct, Elena confirmed, adjusting her tablet to display new data. The pattern indicates coordinated weakening at specific nodal points globally. Natural dimensional erosion would produce random effects rather than the geometric progression we're observing. She expanded the display to show a timeline of events. The process began accelerating approximately 3 months ago, with significant spikes occurring in 7-day intervals. The most recent, and largest, coincided exactly with Ben's acquisition of the boosted gear. Not coincidence. Diedrag's voice emerged from the gauntlet, causing Elena to nearly drop her tablet in surprise. The timing was orchestrated. My previous wielder's death was not random. Elena recovered quickly, her scientific mind integrating the new data point of a sentient artifact. The dragon confirms our hypothesis. These events are being manipulated towards some specific outcome. By whom? Rias questioned sharply. Kokabeel lacks the power to manipulate dimensional barriers on this scale. Unknown, Elena admitted, but whoever it is possesses knowledge of both supernatural energy patterns and interdimensional physics. That combination is troubling. Ben absorbed this information with growing concern. The boosted gear pulsed on his arm, Diedrag's consciousness stirring with ancient memories. There are few beings with such capabilities. Great Red, the Apocalypse Dragon, Ophis, the Infinite Dragon God. Or perhaps. The dragon's voice trailed off, as if reluctant to voice the final possibility. Perhaps what? Ben prompted. One who walks between worlds. A being neither devil, angel, nor dragon. The dimensional gap has many observers. Elena made notes rapidly as Diedrag spoke, correlating the dragon's statements with research data. This aligns with our theoretical models. A trans-dimensional entity could indeed manipulate barriers in the pattern we're observing. To what end? Gwen asked the essential question. Why bring the supernatural and human worlds closer together now? And why involve Ben specifically? Julie added, speaking for the first time since Elena's arrival. Her perspective, unburdened by scientific or supernatural preconceptions, cut to the human element of the situation. Elena's expression grew more serious. That's the concerning part. Our models predict complete dimensional convergence within 30 days if the current pattern continues. The barriers between human world, supernatural planes, and even alien dimensions will become permeable to an unprecedented degree. Chaos, Rias translated, understanding the implications immediately. Humans exposed to supernatural forces they can't comprehend. Devils and angels walking openly among mortals. The carefully maintained balance destroyed. And that's assuming the physical laws of reality remain stable during convergence, Elena added grimly. Our worst-case models suggest reality itself could become unstable in areas of high convergence. The implications settled heavily over the gathering. Ben's mind raced with possibilities, strategies, contingencies, years of crisis management providing framework for even this unprecedented threat. We need more information, he decided, natural leadership emerging. Elena, your research gives us the scientific perspective. Rias, your supernatural knowledge provides context. Combined with our alien technology expertise, we might be able to identify who's behind this. Rias nodded, practical despite the concerning revelations. My brother has access to Devil archives dating back millennia. I'll request specific information about previous dimensional convergences. And I'll have Grandpa Max activate the Plumber archives, Gwen added. If similar patterns have occurred on other worlds, there might be precedent we can learn from. Elena seemed pleased by the coordinated response. I can provide full access to our research data and monitoring equipment. With proper integration of scientific and supernatural methodologies, we might be able to trace the manipulation to its source. The planning session was interrupted by another disturbance in the bounded field, this one more aggressive than Elena's entrance had been. Akino tensed visibly, violet lightning crackling around her fingertips as she focused on the intrusion. Something's breaching the barrier, she reported. All trace of playfulness gone from her voice. Powerful, not fallen angel. Ben activated the Omnitrix, ready to transform at the first sign of threat. Friendly, unlikely, Rias replied, power of destruction gathering around her hands. The barrier is keyed to allow allies through without resistance. The disturbance localized at the far edge of the clearing, Elati seeming to bend and warp around a single point. Space itself folded inward before tearing open, not in the chaotic manner of dimensional rifts, but with precise, controlled power. Through this spatial tear stepped a figure that immediately commanded attention. A young woman with an hourglass figure accentuated by traditional Japanese clothing that did little to conceal her assets. Most king were the black cat ears perched atop her head and twin tails swaying behind her, not costume pieces but natural extensions of her body. Yukai, Kaneko identified, speaking for the first time since introductions. Her usual impassive expression cracked slightly, revealing complex emotions beneath. The cat woman's golden eyes surveyed the gathering with predatory amusement, lingering particule. Arlie on Ben and the boosted gear visible on his arm. My, she purred, her voice carrying sultry undertones that seemed both natural and deliberately cultivated. What an interesting gathering. Devils, humans, and the new Red Dragon Emperor all in one convenient location. Rias stepped forward, power still gathered but controlled. Kuroka, you're bold to enter devil territory after being declared stray. The name triggered immediate reactions among Rias's peerage, Kiba moving protectively toward Kaneko, while Akino's lightning intensified. The tension radiating from the devils was palpable. Kuroka smiled, sharp canines visible beneath full lips. Territorial claims mean little with the barriers thinning, little princess. Old boundaries are becoming flexible. Her golden gaze shifted to Ben, studying him with undisguised interest. So you're the one causing such commotion in supernatural circles. The human who wields both alien technology and dragon power. Ben maintained high-esque composure despite the newcomer's obvious power. Years of facing alien warlords had immunized him to intimidation tactics. And you're Kuroka. Based on everyone's reactions, I'm guessing you're not here for friendly conversation. The cat woman laughed, a sound both musical and dangerous. Perceptive. I'm here for information, which I'm willing to trade fairly. She approached with feline grace, each step deliberate as she tested how close Rias would allow her to come. The devil princess remained vigilant but didn't attack, recognizing the potential value of dialogue despite Kuroka's status as a criminal in devil society. What information could you possibly offer that would interest us? Rias challenged, maintaining formal distance. Kuroka's playful expression shifted subtly, revealing the serious intellect beneath her carefree facade. Perhaps knowledge about who's manipulating dimensional barriers. Or why certain parties take such interest in the new Red Dragon Emperor. Elena straightened at this, scientific curiosity overriding caution. You know who's responsible for the dimensional disturbances. I know many things, Kuroka replied enigmatically. I walk between worlds by choice rather than accident. Shadows contain secrets for those with ears to hear. Her golden eyes fixed on Ben again, studying the boosted gear with newfound intensity. That gauntlet was meant for someone else, you know. Your acquisition disrupted carefully laid plans centuries in the making. The casual revelation sent ripples of surprise through the gathering. Ben activated the boosted gear consciously. Dedrag's presence surging forward. Explain. Nekoshou. Kuroka seemed delighted by the dragon's direct address. The great Dedrag himself, addressing little old me. I'm honored. She circled Ben slowly, examining the integration of the boosted gear with his human form from multiple angles. Her proximity triggered protective instincts among his friends, Kevin absorbing the properties of nearby metal. Gwen's mana gathering subtly, Julie tensing for potential action. The previous Red Dragon Emperor's death was orchestrated, Kuroka continued, unperturbed by the hostile attention. His life force specifically extinguished at the precise moment when dimensional alignment would direct the boosted gear toward its intended next wielder. But something went wrong, Ben concluded. Connecting dots with Alina's research. The Omnitrix interfered with the transfer somehow. Kuroka tapped her nose playfully. Exactly. Alien technology created unexpected harmonic resonance with dragon energy. Instead of flowing to its intended recipient, the boosted gear recognized greater potential in you. Who was the intended wielder? Rias demanded, strategic implications already forming in her mind. Now that, Kuroka replied with a sly smile, would be telling too much too soon. Information has value, after all. She turned back to Ben, boldly reaching out to trace one finger along the boosted gear's scales. The gauntlet warmed in response, draconic energy recognizing the supernatural nature of the Neko show. I could tell you more, she offered, her voice dropping to intimate tones. But not here, not with so many ears listening. Perhaps a private conversation. Ben maintained professional distance despite Kuroka's obvious attempt at seduction. Anything you tell me would be shared with my allies anyway. Might as well skip the games. Kuroka's eyes widened slightly, genuine surprise replacing calculated allure. Then she laughed. Not the practiced musical sound from before, but something more authentic. Interesting. Most males are easily manipulated by simple attractions, yet you prioritize information over opportunity. Perhaps that's why the boosted gear chose you after all. Before anyone could respond to this observation, Kuroka's expression shifted again, playfulness replaced by sudden alertness. Her ears twitched toward the sky, detecting something beyond normal senses. Our conversation will have to continue another time, she announced, spatial distortions already forming around her. Unwelcome company approaches, the fallen kind. If you survive, seek me in the old shrine beyond the forest when the moon is full. With that cryptic invitation, Kuroka stepped backward into the spatial tear she'd created, which sealed seamlessly behind her. The sudden departure left momentary silence in its wake. Well, Kevin finally commented, she seems stable and trustworthy. The sarcasm broke the tension briefly, but Akino's serious expression prevented full relaxation. She wasn't lying about fallen angels. I sense multiple signatures approaching rapidly. Rias made quick tactical decisions. Kiba, escort Elena to safety. Her research is too valuable to risk in combat. Akino, strengthen the bounded field to conceal our presence. Ben selected an alien form, determination replacing confusion. We need aerial reconnaissance. Going with Jetray. The transformation engulfed him in emerald light, replacing his human form with the aerodynamic amphibian. The boosted gear integrated along one red wing, crimson scales flowing into the natural membrane. Back in 5, Jetray promised, launching skyward through an opening Akino created in the bounded field. The aerial perspective immediately confirmed Kuroka's warning. Approaching from multiple directions, at least 24 fallen angels converged on the academy, a coordinated assault force rather than scouts or messengers. Jetray recognized the tactical pattern instantly. Not a direct attack but an encirclement, positioning forces to trap everyone within the school grounds. Among the black-winged figures, one stood out, larger, more powerful, radiating authority. Danesik, Kokabiel's lieutenant from previous encounters. Boost, Jetray called, activating the boosted gear's power to enhance his sensory capabilities. Boost. With enhanced perception, Jetray detected additional forces beyond the visible fallen angels, humanoid figures moving through the trees surrounding the academy, carrying weapons that pulsed with unnatural light. Human collaborators, armed with sacred gear-derived technology. Jetray dove back through the bounded field, reverting to human form as he landed. 24 fallen angels in attack formation, led by Danesik. Plus human mercenaries with supernatural weapons in the surrounding forest. They're setting up containment positions. Rias processed this information with practiced efficiency. A capture operation rather than assassination. Kokabeel wants prisoners, not casualties. Most likely targeting Ben and the boosted gear, Akino added, completing the tactical assessment. The human mercenaries suggest they've a NTICIPATED bounded field and have countermeasures. Ben turned to Elena, who remained despite orders to evacuate. Your research center, does it have supernatural containment facilities? Elena nodded, already anticipating his strategy. Designed for interdimensional entities, but adaptable to supernatural containment. And legally sanctioned, unlike fallen angel operations. Then we flip the script, Ben decided. Instead of defending, we capture Donasek for interrogation. He'll have information about Kokabeel's plans and possibly connections to whoever's manipulating the dimensional barriers. Kevin grinned appreciatively at the aggressive strategy. I like it. Turn their trap against them. Risky, Rias cautioned, though her eyes reflected approval of the bold approach. Donasek is powerful, and we're outnumbered, but not outmatched, Ben replied confidently, the boosted gear pulsing in agreement. Not with our combined capabilities. A plan formed rapidly, building on the complementary skills of their unusual alliance. Gwen's magical barriers, Kevin's absorption abilities, Rias's power of destruction, Akino's lightning, Kiba's swordsmanship, Kaniko's strength, Asia's healing. And Ben's transformations. Synchronized properly, they created a formidable response to even organized supernatural assault. Issei and Julie should remain within the bounded field with Asia, Rias decided. Prioritizing protection of the less experienced members. The rest of us will execute the counter-ambush. Julie shook her head firmly. I can help with the human mercenaries. My tennis training gives me reaction speeds above average, and I've been studying basic magical defenses from Gwen. And I've got a sacred gear too, Issei added, determination evident despite his recent reincarnation. Maybe not as powerful as the boosted gear, but I can still fight. Ben recognized their resolve, the same determination that had driven him as a 10-year-old wielding the Omnitrix for the first time. They're right, everyone has a role to play. Julie's observational skills could be crucial against human opponents, and Issei's sacred gear provides tactical options. Rias considered briefly before nodding. Very well, but you both follow orders precisely. No unnecessary risks. With roles assigned and strategies coordinated, the unusual alliance prepared to turn defense into offense. Ben selected his transformation carefully, considering the aerial nature of their primary opponents. Big Chill should work best against fallen angels, he decided. Intangibility counters their light spears. And ice powers provide non-lethal containment options. The transformation engulfed him, the spectral Necrophrygian emerging with the boosted gear integrated along one blue arm. Crimson scales contrasted starkly with the moth-like alien's cool coloration. Boost. Big Chill called immediately, preparing for the coming conflict. Boost. Enhanced by draconic energy, F. Rost formed around Big Chill's form even without conscious activation of his cryokinetic abilities. The temperature within the bounded field dropped noticeably as power radiated from the transformed Ben. Akino completed her modifications to the bounded field, creating a one-way transparency that allowed them to see approaching enemies while remaining concealed. They're moving into final positions. 30 seconds to optimal counter-ambush opportunity. Kevin absorbed the properties of a reinforced steel beam, metallic coating flowing across his body. Just say when. Gwen's hands glowed with mana as she prepared complex binding spells. Kiba materialized dual swords, one wreathed in flames, the other crackling with ice. Kaniko removed her school gloves, revealing rune-inscribed fighting wraps beneath. Julie gripped a tennis racket that Gwen had enchanted with basic defensive charms. Issei activated his twice critical, determination overriding nervousness. Rias raised her hand, power of destruction gathering around her fingers as she counted down. 3, 2, 1, now. Akino dropped the bounded field in a controlled collapse that released their accumulated power in a concussive wave. The fallen angels, positioned for ambush, found themselves momentarily disoriented as their prey suddenly became the predators. Big Chill launched skyward, intangibility allowing him to pass harmlessly through light spears hastily thrown by the nearest fallen angels. His enhanced cryokinetic abilities engulfed 3 opponents in ice before they could react, their wings freezing mid flap as they plummeted toward carefully positioned mana platforms Gwen created to prevent lethal impact. Akino transformed most dramatically, her school uniform dissolving into traditional Shrine Mai Den attire as she took to the air on devil wings. Lightning arced between her fingertips before launching in precisely targeted bolts that disrupted fallen angel flight patterns without causing permanent damage. Formation Theta. Danesik's voice carried across the battlefield, the fallen angels responding with practiced coordination to the unexpected counterattack. They regrouped at higher altitude, beyond immediate reach of ground-based attackers. Rias anticipated this, her power of destruction launching upward in a spiraling pattern that forced the aerial combatants to scatter rather than maintain cohesion. The tactical disruption created openings that Big Chill exploited, freezing isolated fallen angels before they could rejoin their comrades. On the ground, human mercenaries emerged from the tree line, wielding weapons that pulsed with sacred energy. Kiba engaged them directly, his devil speed allowing him to disarm 3 opponents in rapid succession before they could bring their weapons to bear. Julie surprised everyone with her effectiveness against the human opponents. Years of tennis training translated to exceptional predictive movement and reaction speed. She couldn't match supernatural abilities. But against humans with enhanced weapons, her sports-honed reflexes proved remarkably effective. The enchanted racket deflected energy bolts back toward their sources, creating confusion among mercenaries unaccustomed to facing empowered humans. The Neko show was right, Danesik called from above, focusing particularly on Big Chill. The Red Dragon Emperor has formed quite the alliance. Impressive, but ultimately futile. Big Chill ascended toward the fallen angel leader, intangibility protecting him from the increased barrage of light spears. Surrender, Danesik. You're outmatched and we both know it. The fallen angel laughed, genuine amusement in his expression. You misunderstand our purpose, Dragon Wielder. This isn't an assault, it's a demonstration. He gestured expansively toward the school buildings beyond their immediate battlefield. While you focus on our obvious presence, other operations proceed unhindered. Kokabeel's strategies extend beyond simple combat. The implication caused Big Chill to hesitate momentarily, enough for Danesik to launch a specially prepared light spear that pulsed with unusual energy. When it passed through Big Chill's intangible form, it unexpectedly disrupted his phasing ability, forcing rematerialization. Sacred energy harmonized to necrophrygian frequency, Danesik explained smugly. We've studied your transformations extensively. Big Chill recovered quickly, frost gathering around his form. Boost, boost. The second activation pushed his cryokinetic abilities beyond normal limitations. The very air around him crystallized as he exhaled a freezing wave that engulfed Danesik despite the fallen angel's defensive maneuvers. Unlike the other fallen angels, Danesik didn't completely freeze. His wings developed a coating of ice that impaired but didn't prevent flight, while his movements slowed but remained functional. Impressive adaptation, the fallen angel acknowledged, breaking free from portions of the ice with physical effort. But as I said, this engagement is merely demonstrative. He raised his hand, a signal to the remaining fallen angels who immediately disengaged from individual combats and regrouped at higher altitude. The human mercenaries likewise began tactical withdrawal, covering their retreat with synchronized energy weapon discharges at forced defenders to prioritize protection over pursuit. What's happening? Big Chill questioned, suspicious of the sudden disengagement. What demonstration? Danesik smiled coldly. Observe. He gestured toward the main academy buildings, where magical disturbances suddenly manifested across multiple locations. Alarm crossed Rias's face as she sensed the nature of the disturbances. Transportation circles, she identified with growing concern. They've been placing them throughout the school while we focused on the obvious attack force. As if on cue, magical circles activated throughout the campus, creating brief flashes of light as objects materialized at strategic locations. Not fallen angels or weapons, but crystalline devices that pulsed with supernatural energy. Dimensional anchors, Elena identified, her scientific knowledge recognizing the device's purpose. They're artificially stabilizing weakened points in the dimensional barrier. Danesik nodded approvingly at her assessment. Precisely, human researcher. These anchors will accelerate the natural convergence process by approximately 500% within this localized area. The implications were immediately clear. Kuo Academy would become ground zero for accelerated dimensional convergence, a controlled experiment in supernatural exposure. Why? Big Chill demanded, frost gathering for another attack. Ad does Kokobile gain from forcing convergence? Chaos. Donasik replied simply. The natural order disrupted. Humans exposed to supernatural reality they can't comprehend. Devils forced to reveal themselves or abandon territory. The perfect catalyst for renewed conflict between factions. He spread his wings for departure, ice crystals shattering as he exerted his full power. Consider this a preview of coming attractions. Red Dragon Emperor. The dimensional anchors are merely the beginning. With that ominous declaration, Donasik and his remaining forces retreated through large transportation circles that materialized above them. Unlike standard teleportation magic, these circles pulsed with the same energy as the dimensional anchors, suggesting technology beyond normal fallen angel capabilities. Big Chill reverted to human form as the immediate threat departed, the boosted gear remaining materialized on his arm. We need to neutralize those anchors immediately. Elena was already scanning the devices with her research equipment. It's not that simple. They're creating stable pathways between dimensions. Disrupting them improperly could accelerate the very convergence they're designed to control. How long before effects become noticeable? Rias asked. Practical even in crisis. Hours, maybe less, Elena estimated grimly. These devices are incredibly sophisticated. Combining sacred gear energy with technology I've never encountered. The dimensional mathematics alone are beyond current theoretical models. Gwen joined them, examining the nearest anchor with magical senses. There's something familiar about the energy signature. Not identical to alien technology, but similar harmonic patterns. Kokobile couldn't develop this independently, Rias concluded. The strategic implications forming in her mind. He's working with someone, or something, with access to interdimensional knowledge beyond devil or fallen angel capability. Ben studied the anchors thoughtfully. The boosted gear pulsing as Dedrag's consciousness stirred with ancient memories. I have seen similar devices once before. During the Great War, when reality itself became a battleground. They were created by beings who dwell in the dimensional gap, observing, rarely interfering. Kuroka mentioned someone who walks between worlds, Ben recalled, connecting disparate pieces of information. And the dimensional shifter that first appeared when I got the boosted gear, it wasn't random. It was hunting specific energy signatures. Elena nodded, her research supporting these connections. These anchors are emitting the same frequency as the dimensional tiers we've been tracking globally. They're not causing the weakening, they're exploiting existing weak points to create stable passages. Like digging tunnels along natural fault lines, Kevin translated, making the scientific concept accessible. Exactly, Elena confirmed, which means we can't simply destroy them without risking catastrophic dimensional collapse. We need to deactivate them systematically. Ben considered their options, leadership experience providing framework for crisis response. Elena, your research facility has equipment for analyzing interdimensional phenomena. Could it help decipher these anchors? Potentially, she replied, already documenting the device's energy signatures. With proper containment, we might be able to reverse engineer their function. Then we need to secure one for analysis, Ben decided. But carefully, without triggering whatever fail-safes Kokobile undoubtedly installed. As they formulated extraction plans for one of the anchors, Issei approached the nearest device with unusual interest. His sacred gear, the twice critical, pulsed with resonant energy as he neared the crystalline structure. There's something familiar about this, he commented, extending his gauntleted hand toward the anchor. Like it's calling to me somehow. Issei. Wait, Rias called, recognizing potential danger in the resonance. Too late. His gauntlet made contact with the dimensional anchor. Instead of the catastrophic reaction they feared, something unexpected occurred. The twice critical glowed with unprecedented brightness, its form shifting and expanding along Issei's arm. What's happening? He gasped, more surprised than pained as the transformation continued. The simple red gauntlet evolved before their eyes, growing, developing scales, emerald gems appearing along its length. When the transformation completed, Issei stared in shock at his arm, which bore a gauntlet nearly identical to Ben's boosted gear. Impossible, Rias whispered, supernatural knowledge failing to explain the transformation. Ben's boosted gear activated independently, Deidre. Ig's consciousness surging forward with urgent realization. Of course, the twice critical was never a separate sacred gear, it was a dormant fragment of my power, awaiting reconnection. A fragment? Ben questioned, as confused as the others by this development. When my power was sealed into the boosted gear, splinters of draconic energy remained unbound. Some formed lesser sacred gears like the twice critical. This one remained connected to my essence, though dormant. Issei stared at his transformed gauntlet with mixture of awe and confusion. So this is part of the boosted gear. But how? Alina's scientific mind connected possibilities first. The dimensional anchors are designed to stabilize connections between realities. When Issei touched it with his fragmentary sacred gear, it must have established a connection to the original source, the boosted gear Ben wields. Which means, Ben began, implications forming rapidly. Which means he was the intended recipient, Deidre confirmed. The one Kuroka spoke of. The vessel prepared to receive my power before your intervention. The revelation created momentary silence as everyone processed its significance. Issei stood awkwardly, examining his newly transformed gauntlet with equal parts confusion and excitement. So I was supposed to be the Red Dragon Emperor? He finally asked, looking between his gauntlet and Ben's. But now there are two of us. Not precisely. The boosted gear's primary consciousness, my dominant essence, resides with Ben Tennyson. What you now possess is a connected fragment with limited access to my power. Like a network node, Elena translated, scientific terminology making the supernatural concept more accessible. Connected to the main system but with independent functionality. Ben approached Issei, extending his boosted gear toward the duplicate. When the gauntlets neared each other, energy arced between them, not hostile but recognitive, like components of a system re-establishing connection. This changes everything, Rias observed, strategic implications already forming in her mind. Kokobeel's plans were centered around Issei becoming the Red Dragon Emperor. When Ben received the power instead, those plans were disrupted. And now the dimensional anchors have partially restored the intended outcome, Gwen concluded. Creating two connected boosted gears rather than one. Issei looked between the devils and Ben, overwhelmed by the implications. So what does this mean for me? For us? Ben considered the question seriously, responsibility weighing heavily despite his outward composure. It means we're connected now. Whatever's happening with these dimensional barriers, with Kokobeel, with whoever's pulling strings behind the scenes, we're both part of it. He extended his hand. Not the gauntleted one, but his human hand in simple friendship. Looks like we're partners in this, whether we planned it or not. Issei's express ion shifted from confusion to determination as he accepted the handshake. Partners. I can work with that. As they sealed this unexpected alliance, the dimensional anchors throughout the campus pulls in synchronized rhythm, the first visible indication that their work had begun. Reality itself seemed to shimmer slightly around the devices, the boundary between physical and supernatural worlds growing incrementally thinner with each pulse. The countdown to convergence had begun, accelerated by Kokobeel's intervention but set in motion by forces that remained hidden, watching from the gaps between worlds as their long-laid plans adapted to unexpected variables. Ben Tennyson, wielder of the Omnitrix and the boosted gear. Issei Hyodo, connected to draconic power through unprecedented dimensional mechanics. Two humans at the center of a cosmic equation that threatened to rewrite the very nature of reality itself. The true game was only beginning. Chapter 3 End. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.